Chapter 295. When Lu Ming saw Lu Yuntian again, it was in an extremely secretive side hall of the general hall. Now, Lu Yuntian had changed into a new robe, shaved off his beard and combed his hair neatly. A pair of sword-like eyebrows reached his temples and he looked extraordinarily handsome. When Lu Yuntian was young, he was a rare handsome man. However, there was a hideous scar above his nose that extended all the way to his lips, destroying his beauty. However, Lu Yuntian did not care at all. He only looked at Lu Ming in a daze, carefully sizing him up. "Ming, you've finally grown up and become a world-renowned genius. As expected of my son, ha." After a while, Lu Yuntian laughed heartily and was very satisfied. During this period of time, Huaqi had told him all about Lu Ming's achievements. When he heard that Lu Ming had achieved such an achievement, he was extremely excited and gratified. However, Lu Ming's nose was sour and tears welled up in his eyes. He said in a trembling voice, "Father, who did it? Who did it? I will definitely make him pay 10 times the price." He had already checked Lu Yuntian's body in detail just now. Other than the scar on his face, Lu Yuntian's internal injuries were even more serious. Every inch of his meridians were broken and there was not a single part of his body that was intact. In such a situation, not to mention cultivation, he was even worse than an ordinary person. It was hard to imagine what kind of suffering Lu Yuntian had suffered all these years. Lu Ming felt a terrifying murderous intent in his chest that was about to explode. Lu Yuntian pondered for a moment and said, "Ming, I'll say it again. Don't be rash. Before you have absolute strength, don't let your emotions affect your decisions." "Father, don't worry. Mir knows," Lu Ming said, but his fists were tightly clenched together. "All right, I'll tell you." All of this was done by Chiu Changkung. Lu Yuntian sighed. "Chiu Changkung, it's really him." Lu Ming growled and said, "Why? Father, why did Chiu Changkung do this to you?" "Because of the martial emperor's treasure." Lu Yuntian said, "Back then, Chiu Changkung wasn't the leader of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire, but he was already a famous young genius. I don't know why, but he knew that I had the martial emperor's treasure, so he secretly sent people to capture me. All these years he has been interrogating me, trying to get information about the martial emperor's treasure from me. He's dreaming. How could I tell him? It's just a waste of effort. Chiu Changkung, I will make him pay a painful price." Lu Ming muttered in a low voice. His voice was incomparably cold as he continued, "The martial emperor's treasure? Why is he so certain that father knows about the martial emperor's treasure?" "I do know about the martial emperor's treasure." Lu Yuntian smiled. "What?" Lu Ming was shocked. I only found out about the martial emperor's treasure by accident. However, I was already prepared for it. I have already left the information regarding the martial emperor's treasure to you." Lu Yuntian smiled. "Left for me?" Lu Ming was a little stunned. "Could it be that bronze pendant?" Lu Ming asked. "No." Lu Yuntian smiled and said, "I only found the bronze pendant by accident. I thought it was quite interesting, so I kept it with me and left it for you. The information regarding the martial emperor's treasure is actually inside the Heavenly Star Sword." "The Heavenly Star Sword?" Lu Ming was startled. Following this, the Heavenly Star Sword appeared in his hand. Lu Yuntian was overjoyed. He received the Heavenly Star Sword and inspected it carefully. He then passed it to Lu Ming and said, "Ming, you're right. The information regarding the martial emperor's treasure is sealed inside the Heavenly Star Sword. There is a key to opening the martial emperor's treasure and a map inside the Heavenly Star Sword. You can ask an inscriber to retrieve it later. When your cultivation has reached a certain level, you can head to the martial emperor's treasure and obtain a great fortunate encounter." "It's inside the Heavenly Star Sword," Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. "Ming, how has your mother been all these years?" At that instant, Lu Yuntian asked with a trembling voice. "Father, mother is fine, but she has been thinking about you all these years." Lu Ming said. "That's good. I've let her down all these years." Lu Yuntian sighed. "Father, don't worry. The imperial family has already secretly sent someone to pick up Mother. Soon, our family will be reunited, Lu Ming said. Lu Yuntian's eyes were filled with anticipation. Father, don't worry. Even if I have to travel thousands of mountains and rivers, I will find the elixir to heal your injuries and allow you to embark on the path of cultivation again. Lu Ming said firmly. Ming, it's good that you have such intentions. However, it's easier said than done to heal my injuries. There's no need to force yourself. Lu Yuntian sighed. Many years had passed since his injuries. His meridians were all broken. It would be extremely difficult to heal them. He no longer had any hope. He was already satisfied to be able to see Lu Ming and Li Ping while he was still alive. However, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with determination. The divine wilderness continent was as vast and boundless as smoke. There was no lack of all kinds of treasures. Legend had it that some treasures could even allow a person to regrow their severed limbs and bring the dead back to life. As long as he could obtain such treasures, it would be a piece of cake to heal Lu Yuntian's meridians and remove the scars on his face. No matter how difficult it is, I must get it, Lu Ming swore to himself. After that, he had a long talk with Lu Yuntian. After chatting for a few hours, Lu Ming left the place. Regardless of whether he wanted to avenge Lu Yuntian or heal Lu Yuntian's injuries, he couldn't do so without a strong cultivation base. He had to keep cultivating. Qiu Chang, you and I will fight to the death. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with murderous intent. After returning to his room, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and carefully thought about the direction of his cultivation. Currently, he had a few main directions for his cultivation. The first was the breakthrough of the true dragon of battle art. He had obtained the Jiao Dragon Bone Pearl from Xianyanqing. As long as he could obtain a supplementary material called the Cold Spirit Liquid, he would be able to break through to the 5th level of the true dragon of battle art and possess 6 times the strength of ordinary true qi. The second was the cultivation of the myriad spirit battle body. As long as his physical body reached the 4th grade, he would be able to cultivate the divine martial technique, the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps. Alright, let's go and buy a portion of the cold spirit liquid. Lu Ming stood up and walked towards the market of the imperial capital. The cold spirit liquid was only a supplementary material and was not particularly rare. After walking around the market, Lu Ming successfully bought a portion. After returning to the Star General Hall and entering the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming took out the Jiao Dragon Bone Pearl and the Cold Spirit Liquid and started cultivating. First, he refined the Jiao Dragon Bone Pearl and mixed it with the Cold Spirit Liquid. Half a day later, he successfully broke through to the 5th level of the True Dragon of Battle Art. Surging true qi flowed through his meridians. It was vast and boundless. Lu Ming's combat strength had increased by a large margin. If I can cultivate the True Dragon of Battle Art to the 9th level, I will have 10 times the true qi. How powerful will that be? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. He hoped that he could cultivate the True Dragon of Battle Art to the 9th level as soon as possible. With 10 times the true qi, Lu Ming would be invincible among those of the same level, unless his opponent also cultivated a divine martial technique. Now, let's do an inventory. Lu Ming let out a long breath and waved his hand. A pile of storage rings appeared on the ground. Chapter 296. Although he didn't kill many people in the ruins of Emperor Yun's palace, his opponents had killed many people. Which one of the people he killed didn't have a few lives on their hands? Therefore, he sorted out the storage rings, and there were more than 200 of them. Most of the storage rings belonged to young geniuses in the 8th or 9th realm of the Martial Master realm, but there were also dozens of storage rings belonging to martial grandmasters. There were even storage rings belonging to peerless geniuses like Qiu Changlai, Blood Zhao, and Supernova Zhao Hong. Lu Ming was looking forward to the wealth in the storage rings. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't seen it. Even though Lu Ming was mentally prepared, he was still dumbfounded. Spiritual crystals. Mountains of spiritual crystals. One storage ring wouldn't be able to store all of them. There were a total of 55,560,000 spiritual crystals. More than 50 million? What kind of terrifying number was this? Lu Ming was in a daze. Holding back his ecstasy, Lu Ming put away the spiritual crystals in several storage rings and looked at other things. There were more than 4,000 spiritual weapons. There were more than 12,000 spiritual herbs and spiritual herbs. However, most of them were not very advanced. Only a few of them had reached LV4. There were also more than 200 cultivation methods and martial techniques. There were also various refining materials piled up like mountains. Lu Ming was rich. He was rich. Apart from the 5 top sects and the royal family, the other small forces in the Burning Sun Empire wouldn't have so much wealth even if they sold all their assets. Lu Ming sighed. Half an hour later, Lu Ming put all the items into his storage ring and put them away. Afterward, with a move, the 10,000 Spirit Battle Body Manual appeared in Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming flipped it open and studied it carefully. An hour later, Lu Ming closed the storage ring. The 10,000 Spirit Battle Body is so terrifying and mysterious. Lu Ming was amazed. The 10,000-mile battle body refined all the spirits in the world and merged them into the body to improve the strength of the body. All living things, as long as they had spirituality in the world, were fine. For example, all kinds of spiritual herbs, or all kinds of metal materials and ores that contained spiritual essence could be refined into the all-spirits chi to cultivate the physical body. It was to the extent where even living creatures could do it. It could be said to be terrifying, as expected of a technique that can cultivate one's physical body to the 9th tier. How domineering! Lu Ming exclaimed in surprise and excitement. After that, Lu Ming closed his eyes and began to comprehend. For 3 days in a row, Lu Ming was comprehending the myriad spirit battle body. Tens of thousands of miles away from the imperial capital, there was an endless stretch of mountains that resembled a fairyland. This was the location of the omnidirectional sword sect, the omnidirectional mountain. More than a dozen people sat in a large hall at the highest point of 10 Directions Mountain. Every single one of them was just casually sitting there, yet they were emitting an aura that was as vast as the mountains and seas. It was vast and unfathomable. The sect master of 10 Directions Sword Sect, Qiu sat at the highest point, his face extremely gloomy. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely stifling. Bam! Suddenly, a cold-faced old man slammed the table heavily and said loudly, "Kyun, that brat deserves to die. How dare he kill a peerless talent of our omnidirectional sword sect? Sect master, please allow me to personally kill Kyun." "That's not right." Another voice sounded. Tianyun and Changlai were having a life-and-death battle. Countless people in the imperial capital saw it. "If we kill Tianyun like this, I'm afraid we'll incur the wrath of the martial arts world. Then we can send assassins to assassinate him." The cold-faced old man said. "Tianyun's matter is small. Our plan is more important. I don't think we should let a single Tianyun affect our plan." The first person said again. The hall fell into silence again. After a while, Qiu said, "Let's act according to our plan first. As long as everything goes smoothly, Tianyun won't be able to escape death. After killing a talent of our omnidirectional sword sect, he can't possibly live in this world. But let's put it aside for now. Now, let's discuss the details of this matter." No one objected to Qiu words. Next, they began to discuss an important matter. In the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming had been comprehending the myriad spirit battle body for 3 days. 3 days later, he opened his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a second-grade spiritual herb appeared in his hand. "Refine," Lu Ming said softly. Following which, the vital energy in his body vibrated mysteriously according to the 10,000 spirit battle body. A gush of dense qi emanated from Lu Ming's palm and enveloped the spiritual herb. In a few breaths, the spiritual herb disappeared and was refined into a strange qi that entered Lu Ming's body. This was the myriad spirit qi. As soon as the myriad spirit qi entered Lu Ming's body, it seeped into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming could clearly feel that his physical body was becoming stronger. Although the increase was small, it was indeed becoming stronger. It was many times faster than ordinary physical body cultivation techniques. "Amazing, this is amazing." Lu Ming was amazed and his eyes were filled with excitement. Then he took out another third-grade spiritual herb and began to transform it into the myriad spirit qi to enhance his physical body. In the next 3 days, Lu Ming continued to refine spiritual herbs to enhance his physical body. In these 3 days, he had refined no less than 200 spiritual herbs. Finally, his physical body broke through the limit and reached the 4th-grade physical body. The 4th-grade physical body was amazing. Lu Ming could change his muscles, bones, and body shape at will. When he was injured, his muscles would squirm automatically to seal the wound and heal it quickly. His muscles were like steel wires, his bones were like steel, and his veins were wide and elastic. Lu Ming could unleash his strength without restraint. This was a great improvement to his combat strength. Now that my physical body has reached the 4th grade, I can finally start cultivating the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps. Lu Ming could not wait to take out the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps and start comprehending it. The pressure from the secret manual was no longer a problem for Lu Ming. But after a while, he closed the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps and frowned. Because he was completely confused, he did not know where to start. It was too difficult to cultivate a divine-level martial technique. A divine-level martial technique was completely different from the heaven, earth, black, and yellow-level martial techniques. A divine-level martial technique was not divided into a 1st grade, a 2nd grade, and so on. A divine-level martial technique was very special. Every type was unique between heaven and earth. There would be various differences and it was difficult to explain. Take the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps as an example. The 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps had a total of 9 steps. With each step completed, the power would be stronger and stronger. With each step, the power would be stacked. If the 9 steps were completed, the power would be stacked and could crush mountains and break the sky. The power would be extremely terrifying. As long as the first step of the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps was completed, the full power of the first step would be unleashed. At the same time as the cultivation increased, the power would be stronger. Unfortunately, it was too difficult to cultivate. Lu Ming tried to comprehend it for a while but had no clue. It seems that I have to take my time to comprehend it. As long as I put in more effort, I don't believe that I can't cultivate it successfully. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and thought to himself. Next, after comprehending the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps for a while, he started cultivating the myriad spirit battle body. He had countless spiritual herbs and spiritual medicine with him. He was not worried about not having enough spiritual herbs to cultivate. Chapter 297. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in seclusion for a month. In the past month, his body had improved the fastest. After using a total of 3,000 different types of spiritual herbs, Lu Ming's physical body reached 5th grade in one go. However, after reaching grade 5, the effects of grade 1 and grade 2 spiritual herbs were very poor. Only grade 3 spiritual herbs were effective. Grade 4 spiritual herbs were even better. However, Lu Ming did not have many grade 4 spiritual herbs. There were still more than 8,000 stalks of spirit herbs on Lu Ming's body. However, he had a feeling that even if he refined all of them, he would not be able to cultivate his physical body to a 6th grade. The higher the level of the body, the more energy it would require. Moreover, after reaching the martial grandmaster realm, his comprehension of martial skills would be much faster. After a month of hard work and constant battles with himself, Lu Ming's martial skills had improved tremendously. He had reached the 6th level of the ancient shield technique and could form 6 ancient shields at once. His defense had greatly increased. As for the 3 path palms, he had mastered the 2nd palm, the beast path palm. When he threw out a palm, a giant beast palm was thrown out. Its power was much stronger than the human path palm. The reason why he could improve so quickly was because of the 3rd platform. Of course, he had paid over 600,000 spiritual crystals for it. Given Lu Ming's 2nd-level martial grandmaster cultivation, he would need a total of 10,000 spirit crystals each time he wanted to condense a figure that was exactly the same as him. He could last for 6 hours each time. The consumption was shocking. If Lu Ming did not have over 50 million spiritual crystals, he would not be able to afford it. At this moment, Lu Ming's strength had reached its peak. Although his cultivation was still at the early stage of Martial Grandmaster Realm 2nd level, he could kill Qiu Changlai with one move. On the other hand, Li Ping had arrived at the imperial capital half a month ago and met Lu Yuntian. When they met, they were very affectionate. They stayed together every day and did not want to be separated. During this time, Xian Yanqing had been cultivating in seclusion. As for the golden-eyed blood zombie, Lu Ming ordered it to lie dormant in one place and not move. On this day, Hua Qi hurriedly found Lu Ming and brought a piece of shocking news. The Yin Moon Empire sent out millions of soldiers to attack the Burning Sun Empire. The Ghost Moon Saber sect in the north had already requested help from the Blazing Sun Empire. The two armies of the royal family at the northern border also requested help from the royal family. For a moment, the Burning Sun Empire was shocked. Although the Dark Moon Empire and the Burning Sun Empire had been in constant conflict, it was rare for the Dark Moon Empire to send an army of 1 million to attack the Burning Sun Empire. Lu Ming, this time, the imperial family will send out an elite army, as well as some young experts that the imperial family has been secretly cultivating to the north. On the one hand, it will promote the imperial family's prestige, and on the other hand, it will train these young experts. However, you also know that all geniuses are arrogant and unruly. No one is willing to submit to another. Father wants to choose someone to be the commander of this army and subdue these young experts at the same time. But after thinking about it, only you are suitable. Hua Qi said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming was surprised. Yes, there is no one more suitable than you. To tell you the truth, some of these young experts are geniuses from the Star Cluster Palace, while others are peerless geniuses that the imperial family has secretly recruited. They were sent to the Great Sun Palace in the Blood Zhao Empire to cultivate. They are all arrogant and ordinary people can't subdue them. Hua Qi explained with a bitter smile. However, Father said that he won't force you. If you don't want to go, he will find someone else. Hua Qi said. Go, why not? Lu Ming smiled. After being in seclusion for so long, he wanted to go out and temper himself. The battlefield was undoubtedly the best place to temper himself. Lu Ming, you agree? That's great. I will go back and report to Father. If there are no accidents, we will depart in 2 days. Hua Qi was overjoyed. Lu Ming nodded. Then Hua Qi bid farewell and left. I will also go and say goodbye to Father and Mother. Then, Lu Ming went to Lu Yuntian's residence. After hearing the news, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping did not object. A cultivator must go through a series of life and death situations to reach the peak. Ming, go ahead. Lu Yuntian was very supportive. In the past, Lu Yuntian was a member of the Lu family, but in order to pursue the martial Dao, he often went out to explore and accidentally discovered the secret of the martial emperor's treasure. Ming, the battlefield is very dangerous. You must be careful. Although Li Ping did not object, she was still worried and warned seriously. Father, Mother, don't worry. Ming will be fine. Lu Ming smiled and assured his parents. Very quickly, 2 days passed. 2 days later, Lu Ming brought the golden eye blood zombie to the martial field of the Star General Hall. The army was gathered here today. Lu Ming, don't think of leaving me. Xian Yanqing appeared beside Lu Ming. Xiao Qing, what's wrong? You can't bear to leave me? Lu Ming chuckled. Who can't bear to leave you? I'm afraid that you'll run away or die on the battlefield. Who can I find to settle the score with? How can I trample you under my feet? Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. Then come with me. But I heard that it's cold in the north. You have to warm my bed at night. Lu Ming laughed and walked forward. Warm your head. In your dreams. Xian Yanqing's fierce voice rang out as the two walked further and further away. Rows of armored soldiers stood in front of the martial field of the Star General Hall. These soldiers were all tall and burly, exuding a powerful and murderous aura. At a glance, one could tell that they were all elite soldiers, veterans who had been baptized by the flames of war. There were a total of 20,000 soldiers. The sun shone on the armor of the 20,000 soldiers, shining with a cold light. At the top of the martial field stood dozens of people. Most of them were young men in their 20s. Each and every one of them had a strong and vigorous aura. The weakest among them was at the 9th level of the martial grandmaster realm. There were 10 young men whose auras were as strong as mountains. They were clearly martial ancestor realm experts. Among the 10, 7 were the strongest in the Star Cluster Hall, equivalent to the gold-ranked disciples of the 5 major sections. As for the remaining 3, their auras were the strongest. As they looked around, they faintly exuded arrogance. They were the geniuses sent by the royal family to the Great Sun Palace. In the middle stood the Emperor of the Blazing Sun Empire, Hua Jingxing. Beside Hua Jingxing stood Hua Qi, Your Majesty. Who is our commander? Why isn't he here yet? He even made His Majesty wait here. How arrogant! A young man cultivating in the Great Sun Palace said unhappily. That's right. I think he doesn't put His Majesty in his eyes at all. In my opinion, we should just remove him from his position and let senior brother Hua Ying be the commander. Another young man cultivating in the Great Sun Palace said. The Hua Ying he was referring to was a young man in a golden robe, the last young man cultivating in the Great Sun Palace. This person was handsome and had the aura of a king. He was a member of the Hua family of the royal family, but he wasn't a direct descendant. Chapter 298. Hua Ying stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His bearing was extraordinary, and there was a hint of arrogance in his eyes. At the same time, a look of dissatisfaction appeared on his face. Originally, he thought he would be the commander this time, but he didn't expect the position to be given to someone else. This made him very unhappy. Your Majesty, I suggest that we appoint senior brother Hua Ying as the commander-in-chief. Senior brother Hua Ying is well-versed in the art of war and his cultivation is profound. He will definitely be able to lead the army and win every battle. The young man from before bowed to Hua Jingxing and suggested, win every battle? I don't know where this brat came from, but he actually wants to get his hands on the position of commander-in-chief. How laughable! Among the 7 martial arts grandmasters from the Cluster Star Hall, one of them was unconvinced and sneered. The imperial family had always been led by the Star Cluster Hall. The 7 of them were the strongest in the Star Cluster Hall. Where did those 3 brats come from? How could it be possible that he wanted the position of commander-in-chief as soon as he arrived? How could the young expert from Star Cluster Hall possibly agree? Kid, what did you say? The face of the young man who had been suggesting Hua Ying to be the commander-in-chief darkened as he looked at the people from the Star Cluster Hall. His name was Gao Li, and he was very close to Hua Ying. Didn't you hear what I said? I said that he doesn't have the qualifications to be a commander-in-chief. If he wants to be a commander-in-chief, he should be a genius of my Star Cluster Palace. The person from the Star Cluster Palace continued. A genius from Star Cluster Hall? Ha, I'm dying of laughter. A few pieces of trash actually dare to call themselves geniuses? Truly laughable to the extreme. Gao Li laughed disdainfully. Who are you calling trash? Today, I'll let you know how powerful I am. The young man from the Star Cluster Hall roared, his powerful aura erupting as he strode towards Gao Li. You want to fight? That's exactly what I want. Gao Li's figure flickered as he rushed toward the opponent while throwing out a punch at the same time. This punch was as powerful as a mountain, and a powerful force spread out. The young man from the Star Cluster Palace also shouted and struck out with his palm. As the fist and palm collided, the young man from the Star Cluster Hall cried out in agony as his body was sent flying like a cannonball. He crashed heavily onto the ground and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Second Martial Ancestor Realm. The young man from the Star Cluster Palace shouted, Humph, a mere first-layer Martial Ancestor Realm cultivator dares to fight me, you're courting death. Gao Li said coldly. Throughout the entire process, Hua Jingxing did not stop them. He simply watched from the sidelines. He had already expected this outcome. As long as no one died, he would not care. Now, if any of you are unconvinced, feel free to make a move. Gao Li was incomparably arrogant as he swept his gaze over everyone in the Star Cluster Hall. The faces of the people from the Star Cluster Hall turned ugly. They could not help but look at the bald young man in the middle. The bald youth was the #1 expert in the Star Cluster Hall. He had a cultivation of martial ancestor realm level 2. I'll take you on. The bald young man stepped out and stood opposite Gao Li. Boom. There was nothing more to say. A great battle erupted. It had to be said that Gao Li was indeed very powerful. Although the bald youth was at the same level as him, he was not a match for him at all. In just a dozen moves, he was sent flying and coughing up blood. As expected, a bunch of trash. Still not admitting it? I can only say that you guys haven't seen the world and haven't seen the geniuses of big countries. You think that staying in a small corner of the world and having a little bit of success, you guys can be complacent? How short-sighted. How can you improve like this? Gao Li had his hands behind his back as he looked down at the people of the Star Cluster Hall, berating them with the tone of a senior lecturing a junior. Damn it. Where did these guys come from? How can they be so strong? The faces of the people from the Star Cluster Hall were flushed red as they roared in their hearts. Hee hee. Gao Li let out a disdainful sneer and said, Senior brother Hua Ying is many times stronger than me. Why are you guys not convinced that he is the commander-in-chief? Of course not. What right does a guy who has stayed in a big country for a while think that he is a genius and came back to show off his strength have to be the commander-in-chief? At that moment, a faint voice was heard. Who is it? Gao Li's face instantly turned ugly. Hua Ying's face also darkened. When Hua Qi heard the voice, a look of joy flashed across his face. The owner of the voice was, of course, Lu Ming. Lu Ming had his hands behind his back. Beside him were Xian Yanqing and the golden eye-blood zombie. He walked over step by step. Kid, who are you? How dare you talk to me like that? Gao Li stared at Lu Ming with a gloomy look. Tianyun, it's Tianyun. Before Lu Ming could speak, the young experts from the Star Cluster Hall could not help but exclaim. Lu Ming smiled and said, Who am I? I am the commander-in-chief this time. Why aren't you kneeling and saluting when you see the commander-in-chief? Don't you know the military law? Commander-in-chief? You're the commander-in-chief? Ridiculous, ridiculous, I don't accept it. Gao Li shouted, then turned to salute Hua Jingxing and shouted, Your Majesty, the commander-in-chief this time is no small matter. How can you let such a young boy be the commander-in-chief? I don't accept it. Hua Jingxing's face was calm, and no expression could be seen. He said, Tianyun is someone I have my eyes on. What's there to be unhappy about? Your Majesty, the commander-in-chief position is no small matter. Only the capable can occupy it. If an incompetent person is the commander-in-chief, it will harm tens of thousands of soldiers. Gao Li said, I agree that Tianyun is the commander-in-chief. I accept Tianyun as the commander-in-chief. Suddenly, a young man from the Star Cluster Hall exclaimed, I also agree that Tianyun is the commander-in-chief. I also agree, I accept it. The other young men from the Star Cluster Hall also spoke. Tianyun had killed Qiu Changlai some time ago. His strength was incomparably powerful, and they were wholeheartedly convinced. However, Gao Li and the others had just returned from the Blood Zhao Empire and had never heard of Tianyun's name. At this time, Gao Li's face was extremely gloomy as he said coldly, A bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. They have never seen a real genius, so they can only treat trash as a genius. Then he looked at Lu Ming and said, Kid, if you want to be the commander-in-chief, you have to be capable. I would like to see what kind of ability you have. Then, a powerful aura spread out from his body as he slowly approached Lu Ming. You talk too much nonsense. Hurry up and make your move, or you won't have the chance. Lu Ming said with a smile. Arrogant. Gao Li was furious. He shouted and threw a punch at Lu Ming. The powerful fist force almost penetrated the void. He had used all his strength in this punch, and he was determined to teach Lu Ming an unforgettable lesson. However, Lu Ming ignored his fist force. He took a step forward, and the ground cracked. Lu Ming's figure appeared in front of Gao Li in an instant, and he kicked out. This kick landed directly on Gao Li's stomach. Bam! Gao Li screamed in pain as he was sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. He flew over 1,000 meters away and crashed heavily into a huge rock. Everyone present was dumbfounded, including the elites from the Star Cluster Hall and the 20,000 troops present. Although they knew that Lu Ming was strong, the visual effect was too shocking. A genius in martial ancestor realm's second realm was sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. Is this what it means to have cultivated in a big country? A genius who has seen the world? Not much. Lu Ming slowly withdrew his foot and said indifferently. Hua Qi could not help but burst out laughing. Chapter 299. On the other hand, Hua Ying was the opposite. He clenched his fists and a ferocious look appeared in his eyes. Bam! He took a step forward and a ferocious aura burst out from his body. It was terrifying and vast. Third-level martial ancestor realm, and he was in the late stage of it. Tianyun, right? Just now, you merely used your movement technique to avoid Gao Li's attack. You only managed to win in one move when Gao Li was caught off guard. What's so great about that? In my opinion, it's merely a despicable and shameless trick. Otherwise, how could you have seriously injured Gao Li in one move with your second-level martial ancestor cultivation? Hua Ying stared coldly at Lu Ming. Oh, is that so? Lu Ming smiled and did not bother to explain. However, it won't work in my hands. I'll show you what true strength is. Hua Ying's eyes were filled with confidence. He was indeed talented. He was only 25 years old and he had already reached the late stage of the third-level martial ancestor realm. Even in the Blood Zhao Empire where geniuses were everywhere, he was considered a top genius and was only weaker than the 50th Blood Zhao superstar. In the Burning Sun Empire, other than the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire, he did not believe that anyone among the younger generation could be his match. Therefore, he did not take Lu Ming seriously at all. 3 moves. I'll defeat you in 3 moves. If I can't defeat you, I'll let you be the commander-in-chief. Hua Ying placed his hands behind his back and said arrogantly. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. He then slowly extended a finger. 1 move? Ha! It seems like you're not confident in yourself. Do you think I can defeat you in 1 move? Hua Ying laughed. No, you've misunderstood. Lu Ming shook his head and said, I mean, I'll defeat you in 1 move. What did you say? Defeat me in 1 move? Ha! Hua Ying was stunned at first and thought that he had misheard. Then he burst out laughing. Defeat me in 1 move? Even the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire wouldn't dare to say that. How arrogant of you. I'd like to see how you can defeat me in 1 move. Boom. A terrifying aura exploded from Hua Ying's body and a ray of sword chi shot into the sky. At the same time, his bloodline also erupted. A silver chakra was extremely dazzling. Hua Ying's second bloodline was also a first-tier king-class bloodline. She almost had the potential of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun tribe. Hua Ying held the battle sword with both hands and raised it up high. A huge sword that was 100 meters long was formed and stood between heaven and earth. The 20,000-strong army was horrified. If you want to fight, then let's fight. What's the use of all these tricks? Lu Ming curled his lips and struck out with his palm. A huge beast claw condensed in the sky and pressed down on Hua Ying's huge sword. This beast claw was more than 20 meters long and wide, like a small mountain. It was covered with black scales, looking extremely ferocious. The second of the 3 Dao palms, the beast Dao palm. Bang! Hua Ying's giant sword crumbled like a bubble under the beast Dao palm. The beast claw did not stop and continued to press down on Hua Ying. How could this be? Hua Ying let out an incredulous roar. She kept slashing with her battle sword, sending out streaks of sword chi towards the beast claw. However, it was useless. The streaks of sword chi collapsed one after another, and the beast claw continued to press down on Hua Ying. Bang! A cloud of dust filled the air. Hua Ying was pressed down by the beast claw and slammed into the ground. After a while, the beast claw disappeared and a 20-meter-long beast claw print appeared on the ground. Hua Ying was lying in the middle of the print, twitching and foaming at the mouth. Tragic, it was too tragic. Lu Ming had shown mercy. Otherwise, he would have been smashed into minced meat with 1 slap. Great! He Yun is invincible. After a long silence, a loud roar came from the army. Lu Ming looked around and saw Ming Peak in the army. The roar just now was from Ming Peak. Who else could it be but Pearl and Myeongcheng beside Ming Peak? Tian Yun is invincible. Ming Peak continued to roar. Then, Pearl and Myeongcheng followed suit. Soon, the others seemed to be infected and started to roar as well. The army of 20,000 broke out into earth-shattering roars that shook the sky. In the end, even the geniuses of the Star Cluster Palace followed suit and roared. Lu Ming raised his hand and the whole place suddenly quieted down. Everyone, this time, I am indebted to His Majesty for letting me be the commander-in-chief of this army. I hereby swear that as long as everyone believes in me, I will do my best to lead everyone to achieve great things. Lu Ming's clear voice spread throughout the whole place. Achieve great things, achieve great things. The army of 20,000 roared. On the high platform, Hua Jingxing stroked his beard and looked at Lu Ming with admiration in his eyes. How could this be? How could this be? At this time, Hua Ying and Gao Li had already struggled to get up. However, their eyes were full of disbelief. All right, Gao Li, Hua Ying, step forward and listen to my orders. Hua Jingxing suddenly let out a shout. Your Majesty! Hua Ying and Gao Li bowed. Now Tian Yun is the commander-in-chief. Are you convinced? Hua Jingxing asked. Both of them hesitated for a moment before answering. Lu Ming could see that the two of them were persuading him verbally, but they were not convinced in their hearts. However, Lu Ming did not care. He did not care about the two of them at all. All right, since that is the case, then prepare the army and set off immediately. Hua Jingxing announced. Not long after, the 20,000-strong army, each of them riding a tall green scale horse, left the imperial capital and headed north. The army of 20,000 formed a long dragon, stomping on the ground with a rumbling sound. Lu Ming was also riding on a tall and majestic green scale horse. He rode at the front, followed by Xian Yanqing, Golden Eye Blood Zombie, and Myeongcheng and his siblings. Behind them were Hua Ying and the other young geniuses. Myeongcheng, why are you here too? Lu Ming asked curiously along the way. Because the general of Full Moon City is our father. Ming Peak rushed to answer. No wonder. Lu Ming suddenly understood. The place they were going to support was Full Moon City. Although the imperial capital was weak and declining, the northern border with the Inyue Empire was an important military area. The imperial capital still had two powerful armies guarding it that obeyed the imperial capital's orders. One of the armies was the Mountain Suppression Army, and the other was the Northern Suppression Army. Both armies were elite, battle-hardened armies. Each army had 100,000 soldiers. They were one of the few elite armies of the imperial capital. Myeongcheng, Pearl, and the other's father was the general of the Mountain Suppression Army, Ming Meng. This time, the Ghost Moon Saber sect was the first to bear the brunt of the million troops of the Inyue Empire. The Mountain Suppression Army and the Northern Suppression Army were also affected. They engaged in an intense battle with the Inyue Empire. The Mountain Suppression Army was having a hard time and asked for help from the imperial capital. This time, Lu Ming and the others were going to support the Mountain Suppression Army. Therefore, Myeongcheng and his siblings naturally followed. Along the way, Myeongcheng and his siblings were very worried. They were afraid that something bad would happen to their father. Naturally, the army could not be compared to Lu Ming flying in the air. Their speed was much slower. Chapter 300. Soon 25 days passed. These 25 days were calm and peaceful. They arrived at the front of Mount Han. In front of them was the 1,000 miles of Mount Han. As long as they crossed the 1,000 miles of Mount Han, they would reach Full Moon City. Let's enter the mountain and set up camp. Lu Ming ordered. The army of 20,000 advanced towards Mount Han. After dozens of miles, they found a flat place to set up camp and had dinner. As night fell, the 1,000 miles of Mount Han roared continuously. Lu Ming ordered some people to patrol and some to rest. Late at night, more than 20 figures were leaping rapidly between the 1,000 miles of Mount Han. They were all dressed in black robes and their movement techniques were terrifyingly fast. In the forest late at night, they were like ghosts. Soon, more than 20 figures appeared not far from Lu Ming's army and looked at the camp. According to the news, the Burning Sun imperial family has sent out young experts this time. The general of the army is also a young peerless genius called Tianyun. As long as we kill Tianyun and some other young geniuses, this army will be crippled. A few black-robed men discuss together. It is said that Tianyun is a genius on the same level as the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun. Leave him to me. A black-robed man with a golden moon embroidered on his black robe said. The others nodded. This black-robed man with a golden moon was the strongest among them. Come, let's go closer. The black-robed man with a golden moon waved his hand and more than 20 people followed him to the camp like ghosts. They did not emit any aura and did not make any sound as they walked. They were silent. They stopped 1,000 meters away from the camp. One of the tents emitted the aura of a 3rd-level martial grandmaster. That person should be Tianyun. I'll kill him and you guys assassinate the others. The black-robed man with a golden moon ordered. The others nodded. Under the moonlight, their figures actually became hazy, and they silently disappeared from their original positions. The black-robed man with a golden moon was the fastest. He easily passed through the checkpoints and arrived in front of a tent. In this tent, a young man sat cross-legged. This young man was none other than Huaying. Among the many young experts, his cultivation was the highest. He had reached the late 3rd realm of the martial arts grandmaster realm. The black-robed man with the golden moon naturally thought that he was Lu Ming. Genius? That murderous intent flashed in the eyes of the black-robed man with the golden moon. A slender black sword appeared in his hand. He and the sword turned into a black bolt of lightning and pierced towards Huaying. Huaying, who was sitting cross-legged in cultivation, suddenly felt a terrifying aura of death envelop him, causing his hair to stand on end. Not good. Huaying's spiritual sense was extremely sensitive. He had relied on it many times to avoid death. At this time, he did not even think about it and his body soared into the sky. Even so, he was still one step too late. Puchi! The long sword pierced through his shoulder, and blood splattered everywhere. Huaying roared, and an eagle appeared above his head. This was his bloodline. The eagle's wings flapped rapidly, and he retreated rapidly. You do have some ability, actually being able to avoid my sure-kill sword, but you're still going to die. The black-robed man with the golden moon sneered. His body was like a ghost as he charged towards Huaying. At the same time, in another tent, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. In front of him, the tent suddenly split open, and a black sword radiance pierced towards his glabella at an extremely fast speed. An assassin of the 2nd realm of the martial arts grandmaster realm. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. His body did not move, and he suddenly waved his right hand. A long spear instantly condensed and pierced forward. Its speed was much faster than the assassin's. How can this be? The assassin was horrified. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Lu Ming's long spear pierced through his heart, and the assassin was sent flying. Swoosh! Lu Ming broke out of the tent and appeared in the sky. In the military camp, there were a few screams. Some young experts had been assassinated. There were also young experts who were fighting with the assassin. Lu Ming looked around and saw Xian Yanqing's body flash across the sky, and behind her, there was a corpse. He looked again and saw that Huaying was being chased by the black-robed man. He was in danger and could be killed at any time. Golden-Eye kill? Lu Ming ordered the golden-eyed blood zombie. The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and pounced on the assassins. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a long spear appeared. He threw it out, and the long spear turned into a bolt of lightning, shooting towards the black-robed man with the golden moon. At this time, the black-robed man had already closed in on Huaying, and a cold, murderous intent enveloped Huaying. Huaying's body was cold. He had a feeling that he would die under the black-robed man's sword in the next moment. This feeling almost suffocated him. He roared in his heart, "No, I can't die, I can't die. I still have to revive the Hua family." However, he had just been stabbed, and the terrifying sword qi was constantly seeping into his body. He felt waves of weakness coming over him. The black-robed man with the golden moon closed in instantly. The black-robed man with the golden moon sneered and stabbed his sword towards Huaying. This sword was faster than the previous one, and it was extremely sharp and unstoppable. Huaying could not block it at all. Huaying roared, and his heart was filled with despair. At this moment, thoosh! A bolt of lightning pierced through the air, and it was extremely fast. It was a long spear that was condensed from genuine qi. Clang! The long spear stabbed the black-robed man with the golden moon's long sword, and there was a violent vibration. The black-robed man with the golden moon trembled, and his body could not help but fly to one side. Lu Ming moved, and in the next moment, he swept past Huaying and headed towards the black-robed man with the golden moon. Huaying looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Just now, it was Lu Ming who had saved him. "Who are you?" The black-robed man with the golden moon let out a low roar. The power of Lu Ming's move had exceeded his expectations. With his cultivation of the martial ancestor realm's 6th realm, he had been forced to retreat, which shocked him. "Tianyun," Lu Ming replied indifferently. The black-robed man with the golden moon's pupils suddenly contracted, and he said in a low voice, "So you are Tin? You know me? You are sent by the Yin Moon Empire, right?" Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he asked, "So what if I know you? I'm here to send you to the west today." The black-robed man with the golden moon sneered, and with the sound of his sword, he became one with the sword, and turned into a sword radiance, attacking Lu Ming. Swoosh! Lu Ming's long spear shook, and he thrust it forward. The spear was wrapped in the power of wind and fire, and the power of wind and fire completely merged. Bang! The long spear and the sword radiance collided. A strong shock wave spread out, and the black-robed man with the golden moon groaned, and his body flew back like a cannonball. How can he be so strong? As he flew back, the black-robed man with the golden moon roared in his heart. He could see that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 2nd realm martial ancestor realm, and he was at the 6th realm martial ancestor realm. However, in the end, he was sent flying by the 2nd realm martial ancestor realm. How could this be? How could such a thing happen in the world? Chapter 301. Huaying was equally horrified. He had just experienced how terrifying the black-robed man was. He knew that he was no match for him. It was already a miracle that he was able to avoid the assassination. But now, the black-robed man with a golden moon was actually sent flying by Lu Ming with a single move. The impact on him was simply too great. Lu Ming did not care what others thought. After he sent the gold moon black-robed man flying with one move, he took a step forward and charged toward the gold moon black-robed man. At the same time, he threw out a palm. Boom! In the sky, a huge beast palm slammed down on the black-robed man. The black-robed man roared and tried his best to resist, but it was useless. He was defeated by the beast palm and his body fell rapidly. At this moment, Lu Ming had arrived. He thrust out his long spear with the power of wind and fire and pierced the black-robed man's heart. The black-robed man let out a desperate roar before he died. He had never dreamed that Lu Ming would be so powerful. Wasn't the news that he had received about the same level as the 6 Burning Sun heroes? But apart from Qiu Changkong, the rest of the 6 Burning Sun heroes were only at the peak of the 5th Martial Grandmaster realm. He was at the 6th Martial Grandmaster realm, but he was easily killed by Lu Ming. Was this still the combat strength of the 6 Burning Sun heroes? His combat strength was close to that of the geniuses on the Emperor roll. This was the black-robed man's last thought before he died. He was unwilling and confused. Devour! After killing the black-robed man, Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline to devour the black-robed man's essence blood. The 9 dragons' bloodline started to refine the essence blood. 9 red chakras flashed on Lu Ming's body. They were so fast that no one noticed them. That's right, 9 red chakras. Previously, in the ruins of Emperor Yun's palace, he had obtained 9 blood essences of Class 6 LV4 demonic beasts, which were equivalent to the 6th Martial Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming had refined them all in the Imperial City and turned them into bloodline energy. 9 blood essences of Class 6 Martial Grandmaster Realm. How terrifying was that? The 9 Dragons bloodline was directly upgraded to Common Level 9. One more step and it would become a King bloodline. However, to advance from the Mortal class to the King class was extremely difficult. Who knew how much essence blood would be required? Lu Ming continued to refine the blood essence as he charged in other directions. In that direction, a Martial Ancestor Realm Level 2 assassin was fighting with a young man. That young man was a genius of the Star Cluster Hall. At that moment, he was surrounded by danger and could lose his life at any moment. Lu Ming rushed over and stabbed out with his spear. The assassin did not even have the strength to resist and was killed. His blood essence was completely devoured by the 9 Dragons bloodline. At this time, screams could be heard from other places. The golden-eyed blood zombie was simply unstoppable. His body flickered, and one of the assassins was torn to shreds. In just a short while, 7 assassins had died at the hands of the golden-eyed blood zombie. Xian Yanqing wasn't much worse. With a wave of her hand, the killer couldn't resist at all, and his head was inexplicably cut off. 4 people had died in her hands. Retreat, retreat. The other party is too strong. It doesn't match the information we received. The remaining 10 or so killers screamed in panic and wanted to retreat. Where do you think you're going? Kill them. The army was alarmed. Countless soldiers rushed out and surrounded the 10 or so killers. Since you're here, don't even think about leaving. Lu Ming floated in the air, and his killing intent was like a tide. Lu Ming waved his hands continuously and long spears condensed one after another. Each long spear condensed the combined power of wind and fire. They transformed into a flaming light and shot toward the killers who were fleeing. Continuous screams were heard. They couldn't resist, they couldn't resist. The strongest of the remaining killers was only at the Martial Ancestor Realm Level 3. No matter what they did, it was useless. They were pierced by Lu Ming's long spears and nailed to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the remaining 10 or so killers were all killed. No one was lucky enough to survive. Everyone present, including the army of 20,000 and the young experts, suddenly quieted down. Then, there was an earth-shattering roar. The general is invincible! The general is invincible! The roar of the army of 20,000 was particularly loud in the middle of the night. It was so loud that the demonic beasts didn't dare to make a sound. At this moment, the army of 20,000 was sincerely convinced by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's invincible power had subdued them. On the other side, Hua Ying looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Then, he gritted his teeth and flew toward Lu Ming. At the same time, Gao Li and another young man who was cultivating in the Great Sun Constabulary flew toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked at the 3 of them in surprise. Brother Tianyun, no, General, I was blind before and offended you. I didn't expect you to forgive me and save my life. From now on, my life belongs to you. No matter if it's climbing a mountain of swords or diving into a pot of boiling oil, as long as you say it, I won't refuse. General, Senior Brother Hua Ying's words are also my words. Gao Li will obey your words. Gao Li and the other young man said loudly. This time, Lu Ming's strength had completely subdued them, leaving them in awe. Lu Ming's strength was too strong. It would be a piece of cake for him to kill them. Previously, they had offended Lu Ming, causing them to tremble in fear at the thought of it. Furthermore, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 2nd layer Martial Ancestor realm. It was unbelievable for him to possess such strength. They understood that the gap between them and Lu Ming was too great. They would never be able to catch up to him. They were sincerely convinced by Lu Ming's strength. Don't mention it. Since I'm the general of this army, I have the responsibility to ensure your safety. Lu Ming glanced at them and said in a deep voice, "The general is too generous. I can't wait any longer." Hua Ying sighed. "All right, let's check how many people we've lost." Lu Ming waved his hand and ordered, "Yes." Hua Ying immediately cupped his fists and turned around to check. After a while, the results were out. 11 young experts of the Martial Grandmaster realm had died. 3 young experts of the first-layer martial ancestor realm had died. This was a great loss. One should know that these were the geniuses secretly cultivated by the imperial family. They were the future pillars of the imperial family, but now they were dead. As for the rest, most of them were injured. The Yingyue Empire. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes flickering with killing intent. At the same time he raised his guard. The Yingyue Empire was most famous for its assassins. The assassins of the Yingyue Empire were very famous in the 36 countries of Emperor Yun. Those assassins who hid in the dark were the most frightening and the most troublesome. Next, Lu Ming increased the number of patrols and sent out the golden-eyed blood zombie to patrol back and forth. The golden-eyed blood zombie did not know fatigue, so it was perfect for patrolling. Lu Ming returned to his tent to refine the essence blood. Just now, the essence blood of those assassins had all been devoured by Lu Ming when he had the chance. There were more than 20 people, and only a few of them were martial grandmasters. The rest were martial artists of the first-layer martial ancestor realm and above. The strongest one was of the 6th-layer martial ancestor realm. The essence blood of these people gathered together was very large. However, after the 9 Dragons bloodline had advanced to the 9th level, the refining speed had greatly increased. Soon, all the essence blood was refined and turned into nourishment for the 9 Dragons bloodline. Chapter 302. That night was very peaceful. Early the next morning, the army set off and continued to move forward. For the next 4 days, Lu Ming strengthened his vigilance every day, but no assassins of the Yinmun Empire came. Soon, they would arrive at Full Moon City. According to Myeongcheng and his siblings, they would arrive at Full Moon City in a few hours. Rumble. Suddenly, the earth rumbled, and the earth trembled faintly. What's going on? On the other side, Ming Peak's expression changed. There's a large number of armored cavalry running. It seems that there are a lot of them. Hua Ying frowned. Hua Ying was familiar with the art of war and was very accurate in judging marching and fighting. Did my father send someone to pick us up? Ming Peak was overjoyed. Impossible. Judging from the sound, there are at least 5,000 soldiers. How could he send so many people to pick us up in this situation? Hua Ying retorted. Stop. Lu Ming waved his hand and the army stopped. Then, Lu Ming rose into the air, hid in a dark cloud, and looked forward. More than 10 miles ahead, there was a long team running along the mountain path. Each person was riding a huge wolf. At a glance, there were more than 5,000 people, or even close to 10,000 people. Among them, there was a flag with a moon embroidered on one side and a wolf embroidered on the other. The army of the Yinmun Empire. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Then he landed and told him what he saw. What? Why is the army of the Yinmun Empire here? Has Full Moon City been breached? Ming Peak exclaimed. Father! Pearl's voice trembled and was full of worry. I don't think so. Judging from the number of people in this army and the direction of their march, they most likely came from some small path and wanted to sneak attack Full Moon City. If I'm not wrong, Full Moon City is probably in a war right now. If that's the case, when this army arrives, Full Moon City's mountain guard will be attacked from both sides. Hua Ying analyzed. Lu Ming couldn't help but look at Hua Ying in a new light. He didn't expect him to have such a good analysis of war. Let's lower our voices and advance stealthily. We'll set up an ambush ahead and annihilate this army. Lu Ming waved his hand and gave the order. Immediately, the 20,000-strong army dismounted and led their horses to set up an ambush on a hillside 2 miles away. The hillside was covered with weeds and tiny trees. The height of the trees could reach up to 2 meters. It was impossible for people and horses to see anything when they walked in. At the bottom of the hill, there was a slightly flat mountain path. By the time Lu Ming and the others had hidden themselves, the Yinmun Empire's army had already approached. Wolf howls sounded one after another. The earth rumbled as a great army rushed over. Every soldier was tall and sturdy. They wore metal armor and carried bows and large blades on their backs. Lu Ming swept his spear and the armor of the martial ancestor realm 5th realm general exploded. He coughed up blood and flew back. This person is too strong. I can't defeat him. The general was scared out of his wits and turned to run. However, in the next moment, a long spear pierced through his heart and killed him. Lu Ming devoured his blood essence and turned to kill the rest. More than 10 martial ancestor realm experts were not enough for them to kill. Before long, they were all killed. Then, they charged towards the Grey Wolf Cavalry. The Grey Wolf Cavalry had a small number of people. There were about 10,000 of them, and Lu Ming and the rest had ambushed them. Naturally, they had the upper hand. When Lu Ming and the other martial ancestor realm experts joined in, the battle became even more one-sided. An hour later, the battle was over. More than 10,000 Grey Wolf Cavalry were killed and their corpses covered the forest. Count the number of casualties. Lu Ming gave the instructions. While waiting, he refined the blood essence. Soon, his body flashed and all the blood essence was refined. I still haven't leveled up. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. At that moment, the number of casualties was out. 2,009 people died and a few thousand were injured. This number made Lu Ming's heart tremble. Lu Ming did not expect so many people to die in the battle. The Grey Wolf Cavalry is too strong. Hua Ying sighed beside him. In this battle, they had launched a surprise attack and had twice the number of people. Even with the help of the martial ancestor realm experts, more than 2,000 people died. This showed how powerful the Grey Wolf Cavalry was. Chapter 303. It's mainly because of their mounts. The Grey Wolf's skin is as hard as iron, and it's extremely ferocious. The Cyan Scale Horse is no match for it. Many of the soldiers who died in the battle were killed by the Grey Wolves. Hua Ying explained. How about the Grey Wolves? How many did we catch? Lu Ming asked. Not many. These Grey Wolves have been tamed by the Yin Moon Empire with a secret method. They won't surrender and will only fight to the death. We barely caught 100, but we can't use them. Hua Ying explained. Lu Ming frowned. Let's go. After a while, Lu Ming led the army and continued their journey. There was nothing to think about. Lu Ming didn't believe that the Yin Moon Empire's army was as elite as the Grey Wolf army. If they were all elites like that, the Burning Sun Empire would have been destroyed long ago. There shouldn't be a lot of such elite troops. The army set out and rushed towards the Moon City. At this moment, the Moon City might be experiencing a great battle. They had to rush over to help. They guessed right. The Moon City was indeed in a fierce battle. Kill! To the north of the Moon City was a boundless grassland. On the grassland, two armies were fighting fiercely. On one side was the Mountain Suppression Army. There were 80,000 of them. They were all cavalry and looked as majestic as a mountain. On the other side was the Yin Moon Army. There were only 50,000 of them. However, there was one army that was particularly eye-catching. Because every cavalry's mount was a Blood Moon Demonic Tiger. This was the Yin Moon Empire's Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Army. They were even stronger than the Grey Wolf Army. This Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Army had 10,000 people. The Yin Moon Empire used the 10,000 Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Army as the vanguard. Together with 40,000 ordinary cavalry, they fought fiercely against the Mountain Suppression Army. More than 100,000 cavalry galloped on the grassland. The earth trembled. A powerful and terrifying aura gathered and stirred up the clouds. The clouds in the sky exploded and were swept away. It was impossible for them to gather. Kill! Shouts shook the heavens and the earth. The two armies collided fiercely. Suddenly, a murderous aura filled the sky. All kinds of true chi surged. Screams rose and fell. The smell of blood filled the air. Clang, clang. The sound of steel clashing resounded through the grassland. A moment later, the two steel armies charged past, leaving behind a ground full of corpses. Change direction quick. At the front of the Jianghu army, a man in his 50s roared. He was tall and sturdy, and his hair and beard were all over the place. He looked very similar to Myeongcheng. He was the general of the Jianghu army, the father of the 3 Myeongcheng siblings, Ming Meng. The 80,000-strong army, under Ming Meng's lead, drew a huge arc on the grassland and quickly turned around. On the other side, the Moon Empire's army also turned around under the leadership of the generals. The two armies faced each other again. Armor-piercing arrow, release. Ming Meng roared. Nearly 80,000 cavalrymen took down the armor-piercing bows on their mounts and shot arrows. Swoosh, swoosh, a dense rain of armor-piercing arrows shot toward the Moon army, covering the sky and covering the earth. Fire! The Moon Empire also shot out arrows that blotted out the sky. After shooting out the armor-piercing arrows, the two armies charged towards each other. As the arrows fell, the screams of the people and the roars of the mounts blended together. People fell off their mounts and were constantly shot to death. These were armor-piercing arrows, which could pierce through thick armor and were very powerful. If an ordinary person was shot by one of these arrows, his entire body would directly explode. Tens of thousands of people shot arrows at the same time. Even a martial arts grandmaster expert would not dare to be careless. If he was careless, his genuine chi would be exhausted by the dense armor-piercing arrows. Therefore, ordinary martial arts grandmasters were not invincible in the face of such a large army. Once the army formed a battle formation, it was not impossible to kill a martial arts grandmaster expert. This kind of thing happened from time to time in history. After shooting a round of armor-piercing arrows, the two armies collided again. The generals of the two armies bore the brunt of the collision. Ming Meng roared. He held a 2-meter-long broadsword in his hand and slashed toward the general of the enemy. It seemed as if the sky and earth were about to be split open. Ming Meng's cultivation had reached the peak of martial arts Grandmaster Realm LV6, and he was a general of hundreds of battles. His combat strength was incomparably powerful. However, the general of the Moon Empire was no weaker than him. He was also at the peak of martial arts Grandmaster Realm LV6, and the long spear in his hand shook the space as he waved it. Clang! The two of them exchanged blows and formed a strong storm. The cavalry near them were directly swept up by the storm and flew hundreds of meters away. Ming Meng, today, I will definitely destroy your mountain suppression army and flatten Full Moon City. The general of the enemy laughed loudly. You've been saying this every day. Is there any use? Ming Meng snorted coldly. However, he had a bad feeling in his heart. The Grey Wolf army of the Moon Empire had not appeared, which made Ming Meng feel uneasy. Although there were only 10,000 Grey Wolf army, their combat strength was too strong and he could not afford to be careless. Although he had left 20,000 mountain suppression army soldiers to defend Full Moon City, he was still not confident. The general of the enemy laughed and exchanged a few blows with Ming Meng. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers charged past, leaving behind a sea of corpses. Tiger roars sounded. The 10,000 Bloody Moon demonic tiger army of the Moon Empire was extremely powerful. Each time, they could bite off a piece of the mountain suppression army's cavalry formation. After a few clashes, the mountain suppression army lost thousands of cavalry. Ming Meng's heart was bleeding. The Jianghu army was a powerful army that he had spent decades to create. It was one of the few powerful armies of the royal family. Losing even one of them would make Ming Meng's heart ache. Ming Meng's hair and beard were as fierce as a lion. Rumble! At this moment, a violent roar came from the direction of Full Moon City. The earth was faintly shaking. Ming Meng's expression changed greatly. They're finally here. The general of the enemy laughed loudly. The Grey Wolf Army, it's the Grey Wolf Army. You made the Grey Wolf Army take a detour from Mount Han to sneak attack Full Moon City. Ming Meng's expression changed greatly as he roared angrily. That's right. However, it's too late now. How can the 20,000 soldiers you left behind be a match for the Grey Wolf Army? The general of the enemy laughed loudly. Ming Meng's expression was extremely gloomy. At this moment, he was in a dilemma. If he led the army back to help, the local army would definitely chase after them from behind. At that time, the Grey Wolf Army would attack them head-on. The Mountain Suppression Army would be in danger if they were attacked from both sides. However, if he didn't go back to help, could Full Moon City withstand the attack of the Grey Wolf Army? Rumble! The shaking sound was getting closer and closer. Ming Meng's expression became more and more unsightly, while the general of the Yin Moon Empire laughed more and more happily. Today, I will definitely flatten Full Moon City and then lead the army to attack the imperial capital of the Burning Sun Empire. What's going on? The general of the Yin Moon Empire laughed arrogantly and happily at first, but his expression immediately changed. Chapter 304. Amidst the smoke and dust, it could be seen that this army was not riding ash wolves, but strong green scale horses. The army of the Burning Sun Empire? The eyes of the general of the Yin Moon Empire widened in disbelief. How could the army of the Burning Sun Empire appear here? Where is the Grey Wolf Cavalry? Where did they go? This new army was naturally Lu Ming's army. Kill! Lu Ming took the lead, holding his spear with one hand and emitting a murderous aura. The army of 18,000 followed closely behind, stabbing at the army of the Yin Moon Empire like a sharp knife. Kill! Soldiers of the Mountain Army, follow me and kill the bastards of the Yin Moon Empire. How could Ming Meng miss such an opportunity? He immediately roared and his voice spread across the battlefield. Kill! 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 All the soldiers of the Mountain Army roared and followed Ming Meng to charge at the army of the Yin Moon Empire. The general of the Yin Moon Empire looked terrible. He shouted, "There are not many enemies, less than 20,000 of them. We are all experienced elites. 10,000 of us are enough to block them." Immediately, 10,000 cavalrymen of the Yin Moon Empire charged at Lu Ming's army. Remember, block them. When the Grey Wolf Cavalry arrives, we can kill them all. The general of the Yin Moon Empire shouted. His voice spread across the battlefield to boost the morale. Haha, you must be talking about the Grey Wolf Cavalry. Lu Ming laughed. He waved his hand, and a storage ring flew forward. Then, the storage ring glowed, and wolf and human heads fell to the ground. Those are the heads of the Grey Wolf Cavalry. So many? Could it be that the Grey Wolf Cavalry has all been killed? The army of the Yin Moon Empire was in an uproar. The 10,000 Grey Wolf Cavalry have all been killed by us. Don't expect them to come back. At the same time, he dashed toward the other party at high speed. Impossible! The general of the Yin Moon Empire shouted. He could not believe that 10,000 Grey Wolf Cavalry had been killed. Lu Ming's words made the army of the Yin Moon Empire very suspicious. Some soldiers did not hold their weapons as hard as before. At this moment, the 18,000 soldiers led by Lu Ming had already clashed with the 10,000 enemy soldiers. Deceiving the masses with lies, kill. The leader of the other party was a burly man in the 5th martial ancestor realm. As he shouted, he slashed at Lu Ming with his saber. Lu Ming roared and thrust out his long spear. The saber light shattered, and the long spear directly pierced through the opponent's throat. Bang! The spear light did not stop, continuously killing more than a dozen people behind it before it dissipated. Lu Ming rode the azure-scaled horse and rushed past. Behind him, Xian Yanqing, Golden-Eyed Blood Zombie, Huang, Gao Li, and the others followed closely behind, leading an army of 18,000. Kill! Led by Lu Ming, the Blazing Sun Army immediately tore a large hole in the enemy's formation. The 10,000 soldiers of the Yin Moon Empire were not as powerful as the Grey Wolf Army. Their strength was on par with Lu Ming's army. Naturally, they could not block Lu Ming's attack. Moreover, the morale of the Yin Moon Empire was low, and they had fewer soldiers. They were no match for the Blazing Sun Army at all. In a short while, they were scattered. On the other side, Ming Meng led the Mountain Army to entangle the enemy and gain the upper hand. Everyone move out! Ming Meng's long roar echoed in Full Moon City. Rumble! Suddenly, a large army rushed out of Full Moon City and charged toward them. It was the 20,000 soldiers that Ming Meng had left behind to guard the city. The Yin Moon Empire was besieged and their morale was even lower. Large numbers of soldiers were killed by the Blazing Sun Empire. Retreat! Retreat! The general of the Yin Moon Empire shouted anxiously. He knew that they were going to lose today. If this continued, they would be completely wiped out. The general of the Yin Moon Empire led the powerful Crimson Moon Demonic Tiger Army and charged forward. Immediately, a gap was created in the mountain army led by Ming Meng. Charge out! The Crimson Moon Demonic Tiger Army led the way, and the other armies followed behind. The army that was fighting with Lu Ming and the rest threw away their helmets and armor and ran for their lives. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and chased after them. On the other side, Ming Meng led the mountain army to chase after them. The army was defeated like a landslide. Along the way, the Yin Moon Empire left behind large numbers of corpses. Half an hour later, Lu Ming and the others retreated. In this battle, only about 20,000 of the Yin Moon Empire's 50,000 soldiers escaped. 30,000 died in battle. The mountain army seized countless materials. It was a great victory. An hour later, the two armies met on the grassland outside Full Moon City. Dad! Myeongcheng and his siblings rushed toward Ming Meng. Why didn't you three cultivate in the imperial capital? Why did you come back? Ming Meng scolded with a straight face. Pearl stuck out her tongue and didn't say anything. Ming Feng giggled and said, Father, when we heard that the Inyue army was besieging Full Moon City, we were so anxious. As your sons, how could we not fight the enemy together with you? Naturally, we came back to be with you. Well, you are a little filial. Ming Meng's face became a little better, and he nodded. Also, this time, the imperial family sent an army to support us. The leader is Tianyun, so we naturally came back together to introduce him to you. Ming Peak said again. Tianyun? Is that the Tianyun who killed Qiu Changlai, the genius of the Shifang sword sect? Where is he? Hurry up and introduce him to me. Ming Meng was shocked when he heard Tianyun's name, and he hurriedly said, Tianyun greets General Ming. At this time, Lu Ming walked up and cupped his fists. You are Tianyun. Ha, you are really a dragon among men. I admire you. Ming Meng laughed and cupped his fists politely. General Ming, you are too polite. This time, Tianyun came here to fight against the Yin Moon Empire with you. If there is anything I don't understand, I would like to seek your advice. Lu Ming said politely. I don't deserve your advice. As soon as you came, you wiped out the Yin Moon Empire's Grey Wolf army and defeated the Yin Moon Empire's army. I should learn from you. Also, don't call me General. Call me Brother Ming. Ha! Ming Meng said very heroically. Brother Ming? Lu Ming's face was strange, and he glanced at Myeongcheng and the others. Myeongcheng, Pearl, and Ming Peak's faces stiffened, and they were dumbfounded. Lu Ming called Lu Ming Brother Ming. Then, wouldn't they be a generation younger than Lu Ming? What should they call Lu Ming? Uncle? At the thought of this, the three of them were a little mad. Ha, okay, then I will call you Brother Ming. Lu Ming agreed unkindly, and he laughed heartily. Myeongcheng and his siblings were the complete opposite. Each of them had a bitter face, and they objected in their hearts. Chapter 305. For the next 3 days, there was no movement from the Yin Moon Empire's army. Full Moon City was peaceful. To the north of Full Moon City was the direction of the Yin Moon Empire. To the west was a boundless plateau. The terrain of this plateau was complicated. There were boundless grasslands, but there were also clusters of mountains and ridges. There shook. Lu Ming led Xianyanqing, Huaying, and a few hundred others. Ming Meng led 3,000 guards and galloped on the plateau. This plateau was usually used as a training ground for the mountain army. There were many demonic beasts roaring in groups. Lu Ming saw a group of hundreds of ferocious lions. Their bodies were shining in gold. When they saw Lu Ming's army, they roared and ran into the distance. Soon he saw a group of several thousand 2-meter-tall black bulls galloping on the grassland. There are many demonic beasts on this plateau. If we can capture them and form an army, how strong will we be? Lu Ming laughed while riding on the green scale horse. Little brother Tianyun, you're right. However, the demonic beasts on this plateau are wild and untamed. Moreover, there aren't many of them of the same species. It's too difficult to form an army of tens of thousands of people. If we use different species, it'll be difficult to train them together and their combat strength won't be high. Ming Meng explained with a smile. Lu Ming nodded. He also understood. For example, the wild lions were not inferior to the blood moon demonic tiger. Unfortunately, it was difficult to capture more than 10,000 of them. Moreover, it was extremely difficult to tame these wild demonic beasts. The group galloped on the grassland. Along the way, they saw all kinds of demonic beasts. Some moved alone while others moved in groups. Suddenly, a roar came from the front. A murderous aura filled the air. Tut. Then, they heard a group of wild lions, giant bears, and other demonic beasts galloping toward them. All of the demonic beasts' eyes were filled with panic and fear. Wolf howls came from behind. Then, Lu Ming and the others saw a dozen blood shadows galloping toward them. Taking a closer look, it wasn't a blood shadow, but a dozen huge wolves. These giant wolves looked extremely strange. Each of them was over 2 meters tall and 4 meters long. Their bodies were blood red and covered with blood red scales. Even their legs were covered with scales. Only the fiery red hair on his neck looked like a ball of flame. A berserk lion was being chased by a giant wolf. It was unable to resist at all and was sent flying with a swipe of its paw. Then, the berserk lion's neck was bitten off. What a mighty giant wolf, what powerful strength! Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he exclaimed in admiration. These are crimson blood-scaled wolves. The weakest of these crimson blood-scaled wolves is equivalent to a 7th-layer martial grandmaster. There are even 2 first-layer martial ancestor. They definitely came from the depths of the plateau. Ming Meng exclaimed in surprise. At this moment, when the demonic beasts in front saw Lu Ming and the others, they all took a detour and fled far away. However, the crimson blood-scaled wolves stopped in front of Lu Ming and the others. They looked at Lu Ming and the others ferociously and kept howling. They had no intention of running away. These crimson blood-scaled wolves are definitely the best mounts. Lu Ming looked at the crimson blood-scaled wolves with interest and said, "That's right. These crimson blood-scaled wolves are said to have the bloodline of a flood dragon. Their bodies are invulnerable and they run like the wind. They are definitely the best mounts. If you have an army of tens of thousands of crimson blood-scaled wolves, you will be invincible. Unfortunately, perhaps the crimson blood-scaled wolves really do have the bloodline of a flood dragon. They are extremely arrogant and unruly. It is extremely difficult to tame them. Even if you use strength to suppress them, they would rather die than submit. The Moon Empire also covets the crimson blood-scaled wolves, but they have been helpless for so many years." Ming Meng explained. Lu Ming was a little disappointed. He originally wanted to build a strong army. "Humph, it's just a beast. I don't believe that I can't tame it." Hua Ying snorted and said unwillingly. He then rushed out and pounced on the crimson blood-scaled wolves. The crimson blood-scaled wolves roared and pounced on Hua Ying to counterattack. "Get lost!" Hua Ying shouted and threw out a few punches. Bang! Bang! Some of the Martial Master Realm crimson blood-scaled wolves were sent flying. They rolled on the ground for a few rounds before they got up and shook off the mud on their bodies. They were fine. As for the 2 Martial Ancestor Realm LV1 demonic beasts, they were only pushed back a few steps. On the other hand, Hua Ying's body swayed a little. "What a strong force. Let's see if I can't tame you." Hua Ying shouted and rushed forward, throwing out punches. Hua Ying's cultivation was high. The crimson blood-scaled wolves were naturally no match for him and were sent flying. Hua Ying targeted a Martial Ancestor Realm LV1 crimson blood-scaled wolf and rode on it to tame it. The crimson blood-scaled wolf let out an earth-shattering roar as if its dignity had been insulted. It was furious and its body shook and jumped wildly. At the same time, a blazing flame emerged from its body and enveloped Hua Ying. "Kneel down!" Hua Ying shouted and used all his strength to suppress the crimson blood-scaled wolf. Hua Ying was a Martial Ancestor Realm LV3 Martial Ancestor Realm bloodline. When he used all his strength, it was as if a mountain was pressing on the crimson blood-scaled wolf's back. The crimson blood-scaled wolf kept roaring, but it could not resist and was pressed down. However, it did not give in. It kept struggling and roaring, looking extremely ferocious. "Give in or I'll kill you," Huang shouted. The crimson blood-scaled wolf responded to him with a roar. "Damn it!" Huang continued to suppress it. After a while, Huang was sweating profusely, but the crimson blood-scaled wolf still did not give in. "It's really untamed." Lu Ming sighed. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity. The crimson blood-scaled wolves were not too strong. As long as there were some of them who were equivalent to martial masters, they could form an army and it would be terrifying. At this moment, there was an earth-shattering roar. 2 rays of bloody light came from afar at an incredible speed. In a few breaths, they were in front of Huang. One of them pounced on Huang. Huang was shocked and threw out a punch. Boom! With a loud bang, Hua Ying's body was pushed back a dozen meters. At this moment, he could see clearly that there were 2 more crimson blood-scaled wolves. These 2 crimson blood-scaled wolves were extremely majestic and bigger than the other crimson blood-scaled wolves. They are equivalent to martial ancestor realm LV3. Lu Ming muttered. "What's going on? What's going on today? Why are there so many martial ancestor realm crimson blood-scaled wolves? Normally, they would hide in the depths of the plateau. Why are there so many of them today?" Ming Meng was extremely surprised. The 2 martial ancestor realm LV3 crimson blood-scaled wolves roared and stared at Lu Ming and the others. Then, with a roar, they turned and ran towards the plateau. The other crimson blood-scaled wolves followed closely behind. "Lu Ming, how about we make a bet?" Chapter 306. A bet? Lu Ming was stunned. "That's right. Let's bet with these 2 crimson blood-scale wolves. These 2 crimson blood-scale wolves are at the 3rd level of the martial ancestor realm. Let's see who can tame them first. Whoever tames them first wins. The loser has to agree to a condition of the winner. Do you dare to bet with me?" Xian Yanqing turned her eyes and said. Hearing this, the surrounding people looked at the 2 of them with great interest. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood together like a golden couple. Since the imperial capital, Xian Yanqing had been following Lu Ming. Naturally, the others thought that the 2 of them had a special relationship. Now that Xian Yanqing proposed a bet with Lu Ming, the others naturally thought that it was a flirting between the 2 of them. By the side, Ming Zhu looked at the peerless Xian Yanqing and sighed in her heart. She thought that perhaps only a beauty like Xian Yanqing was worthy of Lu Ming. The distance between her and Lu Ming was too far. In the future, it would only grow further. After sighing, Pearl hid her thoughts in the bottom of her heart. She smiled and looked at Lu Ming. "Why wouldn't I?" Lu Ming said with a smile. "All right, let's begin." Xian Yanqing revealed a cunning look. She moved and turned into a ray of light, chasing after the crimson blood-scale wolves. Lu Ming smiled. Similarly, his figure moved and he stepped into the air. "Let's go and have a look." Ming Meng and the others chased after them on horseback. However, after a while, they could no longer see Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. "Forget it, let's wait for them here," Ming Meng said. The others nodded and waited. The crimson blood-scale wolves ran at a terrifying speed on the grassland. However, with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing chasing after them, they caught up in a short while. With a slight movement, Xian Yanqing lunged at a 3rd-layer martial ancestor realm crimson blood-scaled wolf. That crimson blood-scale wolf roared, opened its mouth, and actually spat out a pillar of fire, rushing towards Xian Yanqing. However, Xian Yanqing waved his hand and sent out a palm strike. The fire pillar was dispersed, and Xian Yanqing easily stepped on the back of the crimson blood-scale wolf. The crimson blood-scale wolf suddenly went crazy and issued a furious roar. Its body crazily swung, and it wanted to throw Xian Yanqing off. But Xian Yanqing's true qi burst forth, forming a terrifying pressure, suppressing the crimson blood-scale wolf. However, the crimson blood-scale wolf howled and refused to submit. On the other side, Lu Ming was also standing on the back of the crimson blood-scale wolf, using his martial arts to suppress it. But at the same time, the Crimson Bloodscale Wolf went crazy and refused to submit. Actually, it was not difficult for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing to kill these two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. It was very simple. However, they did not want to kill them, but to tame them. In this way, they could not use too much strength, or else they would kill the Crimson Bloodscale Wolves in an instant. They could only use an appropriate amount of strength to suppress the Crimson Bloodscale Wolves and wear down their ferocious qi. Only then could they slowly tame them. This was a process of exhaustion. The two third-layer martial ancestor realm Crimson Bloodscale Wolves kept howling and leaping, trying to throw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing off. However, the two of them stood firmly on the backs of the Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. Just like this, the two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves abandoned the other Crimson Bloodscale Wolves and ran towards the depths of the plateau while howling. The Crimson Bloodscale Wolves were too fast, and they passed by mountains and rivers as if they were flat ground. Soon they had crossed 1,000 miles. Here, the grassland had disappeared and was replaced by endless plateaus and mountains. The two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves kept howling and leaping through the forest. Soon, they had crossed another 1,000 miles into the plateau. Suddenly, the howls of wolves echoed from afar, echoing the howls of the two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. Hearing the howls of the wolves around them, the two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves howled even louder, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The howls of the wolves became denser and came from all directions. Then, one after another, tall and majestic figures appeared from all directions. Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. Crimson Bloodscale Wolves appeared all around them. The Crimson Bloodscale Wolves looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with murderous intent and howled continuously. There are so many Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. Is this a wolf den? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The howls of the wolves were endless. Lu Ming looked around and realized that most of the Crimson Bloodscale Wolves were second-grade demonic beasts, which were equivalent to martial masters. Only a small portion of them were third-grade demonic beasts. There are so many Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. If we used them as mounts and formed an army, how powerful would that be? Lu Ming's heart could not help but burn with passion. Suddenly, two howls of the wolves were heard. These two howls were earth-shattering and pierced through the clouds. After these two howls, the other Crimson Bloodscale Wolves in all directions quieted down. Not a single sound was heard. Within a radius of 10 miles, the other demonic beasts did not even dare to breathe loudly. It was incomparably silent. In the next moment, Lu Ming saw two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves walking out from the tallest mountain peak. These two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves were extremely tall and sturdy. They were at least 3 meters tall, and their bodies were covered with fiery red scales that seemed to be polished from fiery jade. They were sparkling and translucent, as if there were traces of flames jumping out from them. An extremely powerful aura burst out from the two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves. Peak 6th grade demonic beasts. They are equivalent to peak 6th grade martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly moved. Woo woo. At this moment, the other Crimson Bloodscale Wolves whimpered and prostrated themselves, as if they were welcoming the arrival of their king. Could these two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves be the wolf kings of this pack? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he thought of this possibility. Judging from the situation, it should not be wrong. The two Crimson Bloodscale Wolves suddenly roared and leaped into the air, pouncing toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not dare to be careless. They unleashed their full strength and met the wolves head-on. Boom! Boom! With two loud bangs, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were both sent flying. What a strong power! Although the Crimson Blood Wolf King is only a Class 6 LV4 demonic beast, its combat strength is not comparable to an ordinary Class 6 LV4 demonic beast. It is at least a Class 7 LV4 demonic beast. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The two Crimson Bloodscale Wolf Kings roared and pounced toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. The two of them engaged in a fierce battle. However, Xian Yanqing was at a disadvantage as soon as the battle began. He was no match for the wolves. Lu Ming was slightly better, but he was also at a disadvantage. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, He could easily defeat a normal 6th grade martial ancestor realm martial artist. However, he was no match for a 7th grade martial ancestor realm martial artist. Bang, bang. After a few moves, Lu Ming's muscles trembled and he was forced to retreat. He was at a disadvantage. Bang. On the other side, Xian Yanqing was sent flying and landed beside Lu Ming, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. However, she did not make a sound and did not escape. It seemed that she would not leave if Lu Ming did not leave. She was very stubborn. Roar! Chapter 307. Shao Qing, why don't we leave this place first? Lu Ming said. With the 2 wolf kings here, it was impossible for them to tame the crimson blood-scaled wolf today. No, I don't believe that I can't tame it. Xian Yanqing said stubbornly. Lu Ming was speechless. This girl is throwing a tantrum again. It's just a fake wolf king. Let's see if they dare to be arrogant in front of the real wolf king. Xian Yanqing snorted and quickly formed a seal with both hands. Then, layers of black light emitted from Xian Yanqing's body. Slowly, the black light formed a giant silver wolf in the air. Moonhowl wolf! Lu Ming could not help but exclaim. Lu Ming was very familiar with this giant silver wolf. Back in the Dongyi tribe's ancestral remains, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing each obtained half of the Moonhowl wolf's beast soul. Later on, in the Battle of White Tiger Hall, Lu Ming merged with half of the Beast King's soul and killed Lu Yunxiong and Duan Mulin. He was very familiar with this giant silver wolf. He did not expect Xian Yanqing to condense the Moonhowl wolf at this moment. However, Lu Ming could tell that it was not a beast soul, but something that had been condensed. It was a manifestation of a cultivation technique. The Moonhowl wolf's aura had weakened significantly. The Moonhowl wolf let out an earth-shattering howl and a supreme aura spread out. Although it was only half of a Moonhowl wolf and had been condensed, the Moonhowl wolf was a real beast king when it was alive. The aura of a superior being was extremely powerful. Woo-woo! Countless crimson blood-scaled wolves let out woo-woo-woo sounds. They lowered their heads and looked at the Moonhowl wolf in the air in awe. The Moonhowl wolf was silver and white. It stood in the air, looking mighty and powerful as it howled continuously. Slowly, some of the level 4 crimson blood-scaled wolves also lowered their heads. However, the 2 crimson blood-scaled wolf kings continued to howl as they looked at the Moonhowl wolf in the sky. Although they were afraid, they did not submit. Furthermore, an ominous glint flashed in his eyes, as if he would pounce on Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing at any moment. It seems like the 2 wolf kings are very difficult to tame. Lu Ming thought. The Moonhowl wolf in the air howled at the sky, its entire body emitting a dazzling silver light. At that moment, Lu Ming's body also emitted a silver glow. Then, the silver glow condensed into a huge moon-howling wolf in the sky. What happened? Lu Ming was shocked. Could it be that the remnant of the Moonhowl Heavenly Wolf that remained in my body after I fused with the soul of the Moonhowl Heavenly Wolf? Now, it has been activated by the other half of the Moonhowl Heavenly Wolf in Xian Yanqing, causing it to appear. Lu Ming's mind raced as he thought of this. This was the only explanation that made sense. The Moonhowl Wolf condensed on Lu Ming's body howled at the sky, emitting a mighty aura. The rest of the crimson blood-scaled wolves were lying on the ground. Some of the low-level ones were even trembling. Even a few level 4 crimson blood-scaled wolves were lying on the ground, not daring to move. Only the 2 crimson blood-scaled wolf kings continued to howl. However, a trace of fear finally appeared in their eyes. At that moment, the Moonhowl wolf above Xian Yanqing's head and the Moonhowl wolf above Lu Ming's head merged into an even larger Moonhowl wolf. The Moonhowl wolf howled and emitted an extremely powerful kingly aura. It was an aura that was innate to the wolf tribe. It was superior and could not be provoked. The 2 crimson blood-scaled wolf kings began to tremble, their eyes filled with fear. The Moonhowl wolf stood in the air, looking down at the 2 crimson blood-scaled wolf kings. There seemed to be a hint of displeasure in its eyes. Woo-woo! The 2 crimson blood-scaled wolf kings were finally afraid. They crawled on the ground and whimpered like two domestic puppies. Tamed. Lu Ming was overjoyed. The moon-howling heavenly wolf let out an angry roar. The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings suddenly trembled and actually stood up shakily. They crawled to Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's side and lay down obediently. It's true, Lu Ming muttered. He was overjoyed. He moved and rode on the back of one of the crimson blood-scaled wolf kings. The crimson blood-scaled wolf king did not resist and behaved obediently. On the other side, Xian Yanqing also rode on the other crimson blood-scaled wolf king. That one was also obedient. Lu Ming took a glance and discovered that Xian Yanqing's wolf was a female while Lu Ming's wolf was a male. It was no wonder there were two wolf kings. Ha Shaoqing, a male and a female. They make a pair, just like you and me. Lu Ming laughed. Who's a pair with you? Dream on. Xian Yanqing snorted and rolled his eyes at Lu Ming. Lu Ming grinned. He was just joking and did not take it to heart. At this moment, the moon-howl wolves howled in the air and turned into two rays of light again. They fell into Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's bodies and disappeared. The powerful pressure between heaven and earth also disappeared. The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings growled and stood up. However, they did not go crazy and did not resist. They seemed to have been completely tamed. Maybe Xian Yanqing and I still have the aura of the moon-howl wolves on us. That's why we can tame these two wolf kings. Lu Ming guessed. He patted the crimson blood-scaled wolf king and said, Call all your subordinates and follow me. The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings were very obedient. They let out two long howls that spread for dozens of miles. The other crimson blood-scaled wolves howled and gathered from all directions. In the end, the surroundings were densely packed with crimson blood-scaled wolves. There were so many of them that one could not see the end of it. So many! Lu Ming was stunned. Then he was overjoyed. Lu Ming took a closer look and discovered that there were more than 8,000 crimson blood-scaled wolves all over the mountains. Most of them were LV2 demonic beasts. A small portion were LV3 demonic beasts. There were even dozens of LV4 demonic beasts. LV4 demonic beasts were equivalent to martial ancestor realm martial artists. I'm rich, Lu Ming roared in his heart. What are you so happy about? Don't forget that it's all thanks to me that we can tame the crimson blood-scaled wolves. If it were you, you would have run away, coward. Xian Yanqing curled his lips and said disdainfully, Yes, it's all thanks to you. Lu Ming was in a good mood and did not argue with Xian Yanqing. You lost the bet this time. You won't go back on your word, right? Xian Yanqing said, Hey, I also contributed to the taming of the Wolf King. How can it be considered my loss? Lu Ming said, What contribution? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have had the chance to tame the Wolf King. Are you trying to go back on your word? If you go back on your word, I'll spread the news of you going back on your word in the camp. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth. In the end, Lu Ming could only compromise and agree to Xian Yanqing's condition. What condition? Say it. As long as I can do it, I won't refuse. Lu Ming said, It's not time yet. When the time comes, I'll tell you. Xian Yanqing smiled slyly and rode away on the crimson blood-scaled Wolf King. Lu Ming followed on the Wolf King. Chapter 308. On the grassland 2,000 miles away, Ming Meng, Hua Ying, and the others were waiting anxiously. Why hasn't the general returned after so long? Could something have happened? Gao Li frowned. I don't think so. With the general's cultivation, he should be able to escape even if he can't defeat those below the martial ancestor realm. Hua Ying said. However, there was a worried look in his eyes. Ever since they had pledged allegiance to Lu Ming, they had been thinking for Lu Ming. Ming Meng, Miangcheng, and the others were also anxious as they looked in the direction that Lu Ming and the others had left. Rumble. At that moment, the ground started to shake as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. Ming Meng's face changed and he shouted, Oh no, there's a large group of demonic beasts coming. This is a beast tide. Listen to my orders, get into formation and prepare for battle. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3,000 guards that Ming Meng had brought with him got into formation and drew their longbows, ready for a bloody battle. Rumble. The shaking became more and more violent as if there were many huge creatures galloping. Ming Meng and the others looked more and more serious. Halt, halt. At that moment, loud wolf howls came from the depths of the plateau and pierced through the clouds. Oh no, that's the howls of the crimson blood-scaled wolves. Why are there so many of them? Where are Brother Tianyun and the others? Ming Meng shouted. The others were also shocked. They did not know how many crimson blood-scaled wolves there were, but they were sure that they did not have enough people. How could they fight? Retreat, retreat. Let's rush back to Full Moon City first. Ming Meng shouted. Let's go. They turned their horses around and rushed back. That's the general and Miss Xian Yanqing. Suddenly, a loud shout sounded. It came from a youth in the Star Cluster Hall. What? Ming Meng and the others hurriedly looked in that direction. At the end of the ground, there was a boundless red color. From afar, it looked like a fiery red sunset. Upon closer look, it was not a sunset. It was clearly a crimson blood-scaled wolf with a strong physique. As far as the eye could see, the ground was filled with crimson blood-scaled wolves. They covered the sky and covered the earth as an extremely dense, baleful aura filled the air. Some of the more timid people's calves began to tremble. In front of the endless horde of crimson blood-scale wolves, there were two of the tallest crimson blood-scale wolves. There was a person sitting on each of the two scarlet bloods. It was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. It's really Brother Tianyun and Miss Xie, but what's going on? Why are they riding on the crimson blood-scale wolves? Ming Meng was dumbfounded. Could it be that General and the others are being chased by crimson blood-scale wolves? Impossible. The two crimson blood-scale wolves they are riding seem to have the strongest aura, but they aren't resisting. Could it be that they have already tamed them? Tamed? That's impossible, right? Hua Ying and some other young experts were discussing among themselves. At this moment, the crimson blood-scale wolf king that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were riding on let out two roars. Then, the horde of crimson blood-scale wolves gradually slowed down. Finally, they began to walk slowly towards Ming Meng and the others. This is the crimson blood-scale wolf king? Could it be that the crimson blood-scale wolf king has been tamed? How is that possible? Ming Meng's eyes widened and his mouth dropped open in disbelief. Those who were originally from Full Moon City also widened their eyes and mouths as they stared blankly. At this moment, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were not far away. Brother Tianyun, you tamed these two crimson blood-scale wolf kings? Ming Meng asked in a daze. Brother Ming Meng, I was lucky to succeed. We chased after the previous two, but we didn't expect to run into the crimson blood-scale wolf king's lair. We were lucky to have tamed these two crimson blood-scale wolf kings, so we asked the wolf king to order all the crimson blood-scale wolves to be brought here. Lu Ming explained. Lucky? Ming Meng's lips were trembling, and one of his hands was tugging at his beard. Until now, he was still in shock as if he was in a dream. The 3,000 guards he brought were not any better. They all thought they were dreaming. Taming the crimson blood-scale wolf king? But no one had ever heard of anyone succeeding. Now, Lu Ming had succeeded as soon as he came, and even brought back a nest of crimson blood-scale wolves. Brother Tianyun is invincible. Ming Peak reacted quickly and shouted. Then, he ran to Lu Ming's side and said, Brother Tianyun, can you give me a crimson blood-scale wolf as a mount? After a few days of hesitation, Miangcheng and his siblings decided to be friends with Lu Ming, regardless of how their father and Lu Ming addressed him. Otherwise, they would really have to call him Uncle Lu Ming. Of course, you can choose one yourself. Lu Ming smiled. Thank you so much, Brother Tianyun. Ming Peak was overjoyed. He immediately picked a Class 3 LV6 Crimson Blood-Scale Wolf and rode on it. As soon as Ming Peak rode on it, the Crimson Blood-Scale Wolf let out a furious roar. At this moment, Lu Ming patted the Wolf King that he was riding and the Wolf King let out a loud roar. Immediately, the Crimson Blood-Scaled Wolf became obedient and whined. Ren Mingfeng rode on it. Let's go. Ming Peak patted the Crimson Blood-Scale Wolf, and it immediately roared and rushed out like a gust of wind. After a while it ran back. "Ha, awesome, this is awesome." Ming Peak laughed. This made the others unable to stand it. "General, give me one," Hua Ying shouted. "General, I want one too," the other young men shouted. "You can choose one yourselves." Lu Ming waved his hand and said. Hua Ying and the others were overjoyed. They were all martial arts grandmasters, so they naturally chose Class 4 mounts. Hua Ying picked a Class 4 LV4, which was equivalent to a martial arts grandmaster realm LV4. The others also picked suitable mounts. For a moment, the wolves howled and the red light leaped on the grassland. They were all trying out their new mounts. "This is awesome. This is a real mount. With a mount like this, killing enemies will be as easy as pie." Hua Ying and the others laughed. Ming Meng looked on enviously. With his status, he was too embarrassed to ask Lu Ming for one. "Brother Ming Meng, this one is for you." Lu Ming waved his hand, and a tall and burly crimson blood-scale wolf came forward, exuding a powerful aura. This was a Class 4 LV5 crimson blood-scale wolf, second only to the two wolf kings in the wolf pack. "Brother Ting, how can I accept this?" Although he said that, his eyes were fixed on the crimson blood-scale wolf, and he could not move his eyes away. "Brother Ming Meng, why are you being so polite with me? Take it and ride it," Lu Ming said with a smile. "Okay, then I won't stand on ceremony." Ming Meng was overjoyed. He hurriedly jumped on the crimson blood-scale wolf and controlled it to run a big circle. The smile on his face could not fade. "Let's go back to the barracks." Lu Ming waved his hand and said. Instantly, more than 8,000 crimson blood-scale wolves followed Lu Ming and the others to the barracks of Moonview City. Along the way, Ming Meng's 3,000 guards looked at the crimson blood-scale wolves with envy. Chapter 309. When Lu Ming and the others returned to Full Moon City, it naturally caused a huge commotion. The entire Full Moon City was shaken. The 100,000 Mountain Suppression Army was even more shocked and envious. As for Lu Ming's 18,000 troops, they were extremely excited. They knew that the crimson blood-scaled wolves would definitely be assigned to them. Sure enough, from the next day onwards, Lu Ming began to select 8,000 of the strongest soldiers from the 18,000 troops and assigned each of them a crimson blood-scaled wolf. In this army of 8,000, everyone's cultivation was at least at the 9th level of the martial warrior realm. Among them, 2,000 were at the martial master realm and about 100 were at the great martial master realm. 8,000 people formed a crimson blood-scaled wolf cavalry. Those who were assigned the crimson blood-scaled wolves were elated and excited. A powerful mount meant that their battle prowess was stronger. On the battlefield, not only did they have a higher chance of survival, but they also had a higher chance of killing the enemy and making contributions. All of them were extremely grateful to Lu Ming. Many of them even secretly swore to follow Lu Ming to death. As for those who were not assigned the crimson blood-scaled wolves, although they were envious, they were not jealous. They knew that the reason why they were not assigned the crimson blood-scaled wolves was because their cultivation was not enough. And Lu Ming was a peerless genius whose name shook the blazing Sun Empire. His future was limitless. They secretly swore to follow Lu Ming well and cultivate diligently. There would be benefits sooner or later. Lu Ming did not expect that this move would make the army under him trust him even more. It also made him more prestigious. 2 days later, rumble. On the prairie, a crimson blood-scaled wolf cavalry whistled past like a gust of wind. Their aura was earth-shattering and stirred up the wind and clouds. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rode at the front. The wind whistled and hit their faces, but the light in Lu Ming's eyes became brighter and brighter. As a man, what could make one's blood boil more than leading an iron-blooded army and making contributions on the battlefield with a beauty beside him? The howls of wolves could be heard as the 8,000 cavalrymen whistled through the air. On the grassland, when the other demonic beasts saw this, they all ran away madly, not daring to stop for even a moment. In the distance, Ming Meng and his army watched in shock. In the face of such power, most of the mountain-crushing army were terrified. Who can stop such an army? Ming Meng sighed. It's a pity that there are only 8,000 of them. Moreover, the cultivation base of each knight is too low. Otherwise, they might have become a special force to fight against the Moon Empire. Beside Ming Meng, a deputy general sighed. That's right. The Moon Empire's Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Legion and Grey Wolf Legion each have 100,000 soldiers. If they all attack together, Tianyun's 8,000 red blood cavalrymen will be no match for them. Another deputy general sighed. Don't ask for too much. 8,000 Xie armored cavalry is equivalent to 100,000 ordinary soldiers. For my moon city, this is a great thing. Ming Meng said. In the next few days, the Moon Empire didn't make any moves. Lu Ming took the red blood-scaled wolves to practice on the grassland. He wanted to get the soldiers and their mounts to know each other better. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. The 8,000 soldiers and the red blood-scaled wolves were getting along well. On the 6th day, a message suddenly came. The Northern Army, which was 3,000 miles away from the Moon City, sent an urgent message asking for help from the mountain-crushing army. They were under attack from the Moon Empire. General Ming, it's urgent. I will take the red blood cavalrymen to ask for help first. In the big tent of the military camp, Lu Ming and Ming Meng were discussing this matter. Lu Ming directly proposed to take the red blood cavalrymen to help first. The Northern Army was another powerful army of the royal family in the north. It and the mountain-crushing army complemented each other. Once the Northern Army was destroyed, the mountain-crushing army would be in danger too. Therefore, when the Northern Army was in danger, they had to help. The red blood cavalrymen were the fastest, so they were the most suitable ones to go first. All right, Brother Tianyun, go first. The Northern Army will follow. Ming Meng said. After a while, the red blood cavalrymen rushed out of the camp like the wind, heading for the Northern Army's North City. The red blood cavalrymen only needed 4 hours to travel 3,000 miles. The red blood cavalrymen could travel tens of thousands of miles in a day. When Lu Ming and the others arrived at a grassland 100 miles away from the Northern Army, they saw countless people fighting. There were at least hundreds of thousands of people fighting together. Their shouts shook the sky. Grey Wolf Army, Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Army. Lu Ming saw 2 armies in the Moon Army, each with about 10,000 people. They were extremely powerful and were fiercely attacking the Northern Army. The Northern Army had about 60 or 70,000 people. They were surrounded by the Moon Empire's army and were constantly attacking. The smell of blood filled the grassland. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. He and Xian Yanqing rode in the front, rushing towards the Grey Wolf Army. Halt! Halt! Apparently, the Grey Wolf Army had also noticed Lu Ming and the others. They gathered their forces and rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. However, halfway through the charge, the Grey Wolf Army let out a terrified cry. What is that? Oh my God! Are those red blood scale wolves? How is that possible? They are red blood scale wolves. They are an army of red blood scale wolves. Countless people in the Grey Wolf Army looked forward in fear. Halt! Halt! The red blood scale wolves roared. Their eyes turned red as they rushed forward. Howl! The Grey Wolf cavalrymen's mounts started to howl in fear and slowed down. Damn it! Go! Go! Don't be afraid! The general of the Grey Wolf Army roared. He cut the wolf's skin with his saber and made it bleed. The others did the same. They all cut the wolf's skin. The wounded wolf became even more ferocious. It suppressed its fear and rushed towards the red blood cavalrymen. Kill! Destroy the Grey Wolf Army! Lu Ming shouted. His voice was full of killing intent. The first army he had encountered was the Grey Wolf Army. In that battle, they had ambushed the Grey Wolf Army. They had the advantage in numbers and had lost 2,000 men. Lu Ming was still brooding over that. Now that he saw the other Grey Wolf Army, he was naturally filled with killing intent. Kill! The other red blood cavalrymen felt the same as Lu Ming. They all roared and rushed forward. Bang! The two armies finally clashed. However, the seemingly powerful Grey Wolf Army was as weak as tofu in front of the red blood cavalrymen. The moment the two armies clashed, The Grey Wolf army was torn in half. Miserable cries filled the air. The red blood scale wolves were extremely ferocious. They roared and slashed out with their claws, tearing the Grey Wolf cavalrymen and their wolves in half. In a short moment, the Grey Wolf army's formation had been torn in half by the red blood cavalrymen. It was a mess and thousands of corpses were left behind. Lu Ming turned around. The 8,000 red blood cavalrymen followed him and charged towards the remaining Grey Wolf army. This was a battle without any suspense. The difference in strength was too great. It was a one-sided slaughter. Save me! Don't kill me! Chapter 310. Devour! Lu Ming manipulated the 9 dragons' bloodline, and a terrifying devouring force was attached to his left palm. His left palm was like a black hole, and Lu Ming devoured the essence blood. Wherever he went, regardless of whether it was the blood essence of humans or the blood essence of the ash wolf, they were all devoured and refined. This time, Lu Ming used half of his essence blood to increase his cultivation. Although the Grey Wolf cavalry was not strong individually, they had the advantage in numbers. His cultivation base was slowly rising. Kill! Kill! The red blood cavalry's battle cries shook the sky. They kept reaping the lives of the Grey Wolf cavalry. The battle on the other side was alerted by the noise. The Grey Wolf cavalry is about to be destroyed. Our reinforcements are here. The Northern Battlefront army shouted. The Moon Empire's army was shocked. Send reinforcements to the Grey Wolf cavalry. Quick! A general roared. All of a sudden, a group of 20,000 ordinary cavalry charged toward Lu Ming and the rest. Kill them all. Lu Ming roared and dashed toward the 20,000-strong army. The other red blood cavalry followed him. The 10,000 Grey Wolf cavalry were almost wiped out. Only a few hundred of them were left. They were running away in fear. The Wuxia armored cavalry once again formed into a sharp knife formation and rushed towards the enemy. This time, it was even more one-sided. The 20,000 Grey Wolf cavalry were defeated as soon as they came into contact. The red blood-scaled wolves roared and the enemy's mounts trembled. Their fighting strength was greatly reduced. The red blood-scaled wolves waved their claws and tore apart several cavalrymen. They could not resist at all. It was still a massacre. Reinforcements. Send the signal. Ask for reinforcements. An exasperated shout came from the Moon Empire's army. Following that, streaks of smoke and fire flew up into the sky, forming multiple moons. The fierce battle continued. The Crimson Bloodscale Wolf entered the battlefield for the first time, displaying its unparalleled battle prowess. Facing enemies several times its size, it easily tore apart the enemy's battle formation and slaughtered the enemy's cavalry. Corpses were everywhere. Corpses were everywhere. During the battle, Lu Ming's cultivation broke through and reached the middle stage of the second martial Grandmaster realm. Rumble. Not long after, a deafening tremor resounded between heaven and earth. In the distance, tiger roars came from the Crimson Moon demonic tigers. The army of Crimson Moon demonic tigers was rushing toward them. There were 20,000 Crimson Moon demonic tigers. Together with the previous 10,000 Crimson Moon demonic tigers, there were 30,000 of them. Kill that red blood-scaled wolf cavalry. The Crimson Moon demonic tigers were led by a general in red blood cavalry. He was strong blood-scaled wolf, holding a mace. What a powerful aura. This is the aura of the 7th level martial ancestor realm. Blood-scaled wolves was red blood tiger cavalry kill. Without hesitation, Lu Ming led the 8,000 red blood iron cavalry and charged toward the 20,000 Crimson Moon demonic tiger legion. The two armies drew closer and closer to each other. Die, brat! The blood-armored general roared and smashed the mace in his hand toward Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! The mace smashed through the air, causing the space to tremble violently. Golden Eye! Lu Ming's mind flickered, and the golden-eyed blood zombie beside him roared and charged towards the crimson-armored man. Boom! Boom! The golden-eyed blood zombie and the blood armor general were locked in a fierce battle. Lu Ming thrust out his spear, the power of wind and fire fusing and erupting. Bang! A fifth martial ancestor realm expert had his heart pierced by Lu Ming's spear and fell to the ground. Lu Ming rushed over and devoured his essence blood, refining it with extreme speed. Following that, the spear swept out, and 100-meter-long spear light swept out. Dozens of Blood Moon Devil Tiger cavalry were blown apart, and their flesh and armor fragments scattered all over the ground. Kill! The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. The battle was incomparably fierce. Boom! Boom! The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and attacked the blood armor general without fear of death. For a moment, the blood armor general was at a complete disadvantage. Beast Dao Palm. Lu Ming struck out with his palm, and a huge beast palm flew towards the blood armor general. Great demonic palm print. Not far away, Xian Yanqing also struck out a few palms, and a pitch-black palm print flew towards the blood armor general. Bang! Bang! Although the blood armor general was fierce, he could not withstand the ferocious attacks of the golden-eyed blood zombie. In addition, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were besieging him. His body shook violently, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood as he retreated quickly. Chi-Chi, however, the golden-eyed blood zombie would not miss this opportunity. He pounced on the blood armor general, and his fingernails were sharper than sabers. In an instant, he tore the blood armor general's armor into pieces. Lu Ming rushed forward and devoured the blood armor general's essence blood. This was the essence blood of a 7th martial ancestor realm martial artist, and it was shocking. Lu Ming continued to refine it, and his cultivation level began to rise rapidly. The general has been killed. Someone in the Blood Moon Devil Tiger cavalry shouted. The commander of the Blood Moon Devil Tiger cavalry had been killed, and their morale had plummeted. On the other hand, the Red Blood cavalry's morale had soared. General Tian Yun is invincible. General Tian Yun is invincible. The Red Blood cavalry roared as they charged towards the enemy. Slowly, the Crimson Blood Fiend Tiger army began to crumble. In a battle, victory and defeat were decided by a hair's breadth. Once they collapsed, they would be defeated like a landslide. The Red Blood cavalry's eyes were bloodshot as they charged towards the enemy. Hold on. The deputy general of the Blood Moon Devil Tiger cavalry roared. He tried to hold on and turn the tide, but it was all in vain. The Blood Moon Devil Tiger cavalry was doomed. Boom! Boom! In the distance, there were explosions in the sky. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he looked in that direction. There was also an intense battle going on in the sky a few miles away. That was the battlefield of the experts, because the people fighting there were all experts of the martial ancestor realm and above. There were 40 to 50 people fighting in the sky. Lu Ming discovered that there were experts of the Mystic Essence Sword sect and the Ghost Moon Saber sect. The others were undoubtedly experts of the Een Moon Empire. That's Autumn Moon. In the crowd, Lu Ming suddenly saw a familiar figure. It was Autumn Moon. Obviously, after not seeing him for such a long time, Autumn Moon had reached the martial ancestor realm. Huang, I'll leave the Red Blood cavalry to you for the time being. All of a sudden, Lu Ming's shout could be heard from afar. Hua Ying was startled. Although he did not understand the reason, he immediately replied, yes. On the battlefield, one only needed to obey. Good, I'll leave the Red Blood cavalry to you, Lu Ming said. There was no suspense in the battle here. Hua Ying was well versed in the art of commanding, so Lu Ming was relieved to leave it to him. Golda, let's go. Lu Ming moved and leaped from the crimson blood-scaled Wolf King's body, flying toward the distant sky. The Gold-Eye Blood zombie followed closely behind Lu Ming. They covered the distance of a few miles in an instant. Who's there? Chapter 311. I'm here to kill you. Lu Ming could not be bothered to talk to him as he stabbed out with his spear. Fiery wind kill. The man was only of martial ancestor realm 3 and was unable to defend himself against Lu Ming's attack. He was killed by the spear in the air. Then, Lu Ming looked around and analyzed the situation. Most of the experts of the Burning Sun Empire were from the Mystic Essence Sword sect and the Ghost Moon Saber sect. It was obvious that they were at a disadvantage. High up in the sky, there was a loud explosion and a powerful aura came down. It was the aura of a martial ancestor Realm 7 martial artist. Not far away, Autumn Moon was wearing a white dress. She exuded an extremely cold aura. When she waved her hand, the cold aura froze everything. After not seeing her for a while, Autumn Moon was even more beautiful. Her curves were graceful and her figure was even more voluptuous. However, her beautiful face was extremely cold. It was even colder than the aura she exuded. Judging from the aura on Autumn Moon's body, Autumn Moon had reached the early stages of Martial Ancestor Realm 2. Even Lu Ming was shocked by her cultivation progress. Her opponent was a Martial Ancestor Realm 3 expert. However, he was completely suppressed by Autumn Moon. Absolute frost. Autumn Moon shouted. She waved her hands and an endless amount of cold aura surged. Her opponent roared, but in the next moment, he was turned into an ice sculpture. Autumn Moon slapped out and the ice sculpture shattered into pieces. A Martial Ancestor Realm 3 martial artist had been easily killed by Autumn Moon. "Little bitch, you're courting death." At that moment, a sharp sound was heard and a bright sword radiance shot towards Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon's face changed. Her body flashed quickly and she managed to dodge the sword radiance. With a flash of light, a white-haired old man appeared in front of Autumn Moon. He looked at Autumn Moon coldly. "Little bitch, die." The old man shouted coldly. His sword radiance flashed and he charged towards Autumn Moon. Martial Ancestor Realm 5. The old man had a cultivation of Martial Ancestor Realm 5. His sword radiance was bright and sharp. In an instant he had completely suppressed Autumn Moon. "Rise!" Autumn Moon shouted. Her body flashed with a blood-red light, and a humanoid figure with blurry facial features appeared. This figure was incomparably cold, as if it was completely made of ice. At the same time, 5 silver chakras flashed across this figure. However, it was still seen by Lao O and Lu Ming. Level 5 King Class Bloodline. The second bloodline awakened by Autumn Moon was actually a level 5 King Class bloodline. Lu Ming was shocked. But on second thought, he felt that it was normal. The first bloodline of Autumn Moon was originally a very powerful natural type ice bloodline among the special bloodlines. Its level was as high as level 8. It was normal for the second bloodline to be powerful. However, Old O was frightened. Then he roared with a ferocious expression, "Die, die, I will not let you live in this world." Amidst the screams, the terrifying sword chi surged towards Autumn Moon. After activating her bloodline, Autumn Moon's combat strength had increased tremendously. Although she was still at a disadvantage, she would not be defeated for a while. However, at this moment, a black-robed figure appeared not far away from Autumn Moon. He stared coldly at Autumn Moon. "Die!" Suddenly, the black-robed man attacked. A jet-black sword radiance pierced towards Autumn Moon. He was also a level 5 Martial Ancestor Realm Cultivation. "You are the one who will die." When the black-robed man appeared, Lu Ming had already rushed over. At this moment he shouted coldly and swept out his spear. Clang! The long spear hit the black-robed man's long sword. The long sword shook violently and almost exploded. "Who is it?" The black-robed man's body shook violently and he retreated quickly. "The one who will kill you." Lu Ming stepped out and charged towards the black-robed man. Boom! On the long spear, the power of wind and fire was entwined, causing the long spear to move at an extremely fast speed. Bam! The black-robed man's body was swept by the spear. He screamed in pain and his body exploded. Now, Lu Ming only needed one move to kill a level 5 Martial Ancestor Realm Cultivation. The 9 dragons' bloodlines circulated and devoured the opponent's essence blood. Suddenly, Lu Ming's body shook. His cultivation had broken through again. He had reached the late stage of level 2 Martial Ancestor Realm. The essence blood he had devoured was too rich and there was still a large portion that he had not refined. "Kill!" With the breakthrough in his cultivation, Lu Ming's combat strength was even stronger. In a flash, he appeared beside Elder O, who was fighting with Autumn Moon. He stabbed out with his spear, and the spear radiance was like lightning. Elder O screamed in horror and tried to dodge. However, everything was in vain. In the next moment, a large hole appeared in his chest. Killing with one spear. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and looked like a god of war. Autumn Moon looked at Lu Ming and her heart trembled. She did not know why, but when she saw Lu Ming, she felt that he was extremely familiar. Although his body shape and appearance were completely different, she was all too familiar with his temperament. For a moment, she was stunned. "What? Little girl, don't you recognize your young master?" Lu Ming came to Autumn Moon's side and smiled. Hearing this, Autumn Moon's body trembled. Her beautiful eyes suddenly widened as she stared straight at Lu Ming. "Young master? Is it really you? Is it really you?" Qiao Yu's eyes were misty and tears rolled down her cheeks as she spoke emotionally. "Little girl, if it's not me, who else could it be?" Lu Ming stretched out his finger and scratched the tip of Autumn Moon's white nose. Autumn Moon was so emotional that her body trembled. Tears streamed down her face as she said, young master, Autumn Moon has finally found young master." If it were not for the fact that they were fighting, she would have jumped into Lu Ming's arms. Back then, she was brought to a secret place by her master to cultivate in seclusion. Her cultivation progress was extremely terrifying. However, when she ended her cultivation and returned to the Mystic Essence Sword sect, she heard a shocking piece of news. Lu Ming killed his way into the White Tiger Hall and killed many people from the Duanmu family. In the end, the Duanmu family forced him to leave the Mystic Essence Sword sect and disappear without a trace. This news was like a bolt from the blue to Autumn Moon. If it were not for her master stopping her, she would have killed her way into the White Tiger Hall. During this period of time, she had traveled far and wide, but there was no news about Lu Ming. If it were not for her master's kindness, she would have left the Mystic Essence Sword sect on her own accord. This time, she followed the experts of the Mystic Essence Sword sect to support the Ghost Moon Saber sect. One reason was to gain experience, and the other was to find Lu Ming. She wanted to try her luck and see if she could get any news about Lu Ming. She never expected that Lu Ming would suddenly appear beside her. One could only imagine the excitement in her heart. "Silly girl, why are you crying? It's more important to kill the enemy first. After we kill the enemy, we can have a good chat." Lu Ming stretched out his hand to wipe away Autumn Moon's tears. "Yes, young master." Autumn Moon's tears turned into smiles. Her face revealed a smile that was even more brilliant than flowers. "At this time, you still have the mood to be intimate with each other. Let this old man send the two of you on your way to the underworld to be intimate." Suddenly, a dry and hoarse voice rang out. A skinny and gloomy old man appeared not far away and looked at the two of them with a cold smile. His body emitted a powerful aura. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.